Welcome to episode 13 of the Dimensional Cascade podcast, coming at you from the dungeon in Shoreline, Washington. With me, I have
Ricky
and Tom,
and I'm Aiden. And it's been a long time coming.
It's been a long time coming.
It's been the unlucky episode 13.
Oh, yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
That's why we were so delayed.
The stars just haven't lined up.
No, I think the Great Horned Rat has been kind of, messing with our mojo.
It's the end times. We've all been in hiding.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
What a time, finally something exciting is happening in Warhammer and we're not podcasting.
Yeah, it's true. Real life has kind of caught up with us a bit. We did schedule a time to record episode 13 about a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then ended up recording a really long pile of crap that I decided we weren't going to publish.
Yeah.
Mostly around talking about tournaments, and it was just I listened to it again. I'm like, this is really dull. So rather than give you something really dull, I give you nothing. So you should thank me.
And then since then, the struggles of getting a bunch of busy, successful professionals and one academic in the room at the same time it's just been too much.
Yeah. Well, Ricky got promoted.
Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome. Well done. He's now chief designer nerd.
Chief nerd.
I am the director of Integrated Studio.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Whoa. All right. And I changed team within my job as well. So now instead of working on email, I'm working on Facebook related stuff.
Oh, cool.
Well, it's incredibly distracting because every time I go to test something, Facebook
is on Facebook.
I'm like, oh. Well, I'm part of 3 Warhammer groups on Facebook, and so now it's, that just happened? What?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be distracting.
It is a little bit distracting.
Hard to focus.
Yeah. Oh, look.
Ooh, piece of candy.
So here we are. What have we got up in this episode? We're going to be talking end times in the news and the rumors section because we can talk a little bit about book 1 and some more about the upcoming book 2. We'll be doing a full end times review probably next episode.
In the next podcast.
Did you remember to bring the books?
Yeah, I've got the books.
Excellent. Then I will get them read and we can review them. In our tournament zone, we'll talk briefly about Victory or Death and the OFCC Team Challenge. And those are 2 tournaments we went to recently. And then upcoming, we have Sparkle Party Deathmatch 5.
Woo!
The King of Cascadia and U.S. Masters updates for the Northwest region and actually for Masters in general. So reasonably big tournament zone, so we'll try and keep everything short and sharp. And then Hobby Horse is going to be working with big kits, how to put together those larger kits from GW or
which is timely given all the end time stuff coming out.
Exactly. How to paint them, that sort of thing. Just some of the hints and tips that we've picked up over the years. Mostly how to avoid gluing all your fingers.
Avoid getting covered in glue like I end up every time I try and put a big kit together. Either I'm covered with glue or the model itself just has so much glue on it.
I'm so embarrassed for you.
No, it's not glue, it's Nurgle.
This isn't my high elf phoenix. This is a Nurgle plague drone.
Yeah. In our Art of War section, we'll be covering the big rulebook magic items. We're going to talk about mostly the ones that don't see play in every army book. So everybody, I think, knows the value or crutch likeness of the dispel scroll and so forth. We're going to talk about some of the lesser used ones.
We'll call the section Beyond the Dispel Scroll.
Beyond the Dispel Scroll.
There's something beyond that?
The hidden gems of the BRB items.
It's like the Twilight Zone. Okay, but without further ado, we will roll into the pit. The changeling personifies the part of Tzeentch's psyche that is the meddler, the deceiver, the trickster. He can take the form of other
beings, from the tiniest of insects to the most massive of greater demons. None, save perhaps Tzeentch himself, know the changeling's true form.
He goes cowled and cloaked when he's in his own shape. Perhaps even the changeling himself has forgotten it. Not only can the changeling mirror the form of another, he can adopt mannerisms and personalities in so flawless a fashion that even the dark gods can be deceived. In all of creation, there is only one entity that the changeling cannot duplicate, the great god Tzeentch himself, and Sigvald, of course. The grand schemer will not suffer any being to steal his identity even for a moment. Okay, so the pit. We have the changeling, who we just introduced. I love the fluff for him.
Mm-hmm. He changes, apparently, between all of the other pit contestants.
Yeah.
But even above and beyond that, he basically wanders around imitating things and causing problems. Mm-hmm. Starts wars between the other Chaos Gods. Steals things from one place and, leaves them another place. And before you know it, Slaanesh and Nurgle are killing each other.
Yeah. And he's in the end times, so very timely.
Oh, is he?
Have you not read the bit with him in?
No.
Oh, spoiler alert.
I've only read about the first 10 pages. I'm really, really bad about this. But when I decided on him, I went through all the demons. I read the whole demon special character selection. Okay. And his was the only one that I really liked.
He sounded awesome.
And he is actually quite a nice model.
The model's actually,
I've always loved the model. So
yeah, there's quite a few bad special character demon models.
Yeah,
so.
It is. I will say it's a fine cast one, and it came heavily warped. There's huge voids in it. I didn't even bother patching some of the voids. If you actually look at the pictures on Flickr, if you're critical, you'll be able to find them. But it's the changeling, so who's
who knows what he should look like?
Yeah, who knows what he should look like, man.
Well, he gets up to some tricks in the end times.
Awesome.
We won't do any spoilers this time.
Good. Yeah, no, but, he's really I just love. It's like the Empire speculum or whatever.
Von Horseman speculum.
Yeah, I just love his rules. How he's able to morph and change.
So let's go into the rules.
Let's go through the rules real quickly. So, as far as stat line is concerned, he's kind of average. He's, move 4, weapon skill 3, ballistic skill 4, strength and toughness 3. He's got a couple of wounds because he's a hero level. Initiative 3, attacks 1, and leadership 8. So, very mundane. He's a level 1 wizard from Lore of Tzeentch. His special rules, he's Demon of Tzeentch, which means he can reroll ward save rolls of a 1 and also reroll any channeling dice of a 1. He's demonic, so that gives him, fear, unstable, 5-up ward, all of that good stuff that demons get. He's got the lesser locus of transmogrification, which is such a fun word to say. Transmogrification, which means if you put him in a unit of pink horrors, their blue horror special rule, which is at the end of the turn, where a bunch of them die, they could do strength 2 hits to you. Mm-hmm. It goes from being 2 counters to 4 D3 plus 1 counters. So basically makes it more likely that they're going to wound you when you kill them. It's not great, but it's it's not a terrible one either. But the really cool part, and the reason why he's going to be fun in the pit, is the formless horror special rule. So at the start of each close combat phase, choose an enemy model in base contact with the changeling. He can increase any or all of his weapon skill, strength, toughness, initiative, and attacks to match those of the chosen enemy model. And so if it is a mounted model, he can also choose the highest of the characteristics. So if he's in against a dragon, he can have...
Against an elf on a dragon, he can have the massive initiative and weapon skill plus the strength.
Yes.
And toughness
and
too?
Toughness. No, not toughness.
Not toughness?
Oh, yeah, toughness too.
Toughness?
Yeah,
weapon skill, strength, toughness, initiative, and attacks. Everything that's important for combat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting if...
And he can take the strength of the dragon and use it to kill the elf on top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Pretty nasty.
Solid.
So, and the attacks of the dragon, that's all usually higher too.
Mm-hmm.
So he's up against Malagor.
Malagor, back from last time when he killed Wulfric. Wulfric with the pew-pew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His name's not Wulfric, is it? Wolfheart. Marcus Wolfheart.
Marcus Wolfheart, the fabled monster hunter.
Yes.
Who got trampled under the foot of the mountain
chimera. Yeah.
You're a jerk, Tom.
Yeah.
You're a jerk. I remember now. That was epic. All right.
Okay. So we've got the pit all set up here. We are 24 inches apart.
We got some spells to roll.
We also have to roll on the Reign of Chaos table whenever we have to look on the Reign of Chaos table because we've got a demon on the board. So you are Tom's going to be rolling for Malagor on Lore of Beasts.
Do I have to take Lore of Beasts?
Yes.
I think we decided because he's entered the pit as a Lore of Beasts wizard, he'll continue to be so.
Yes.
Because obviously I would like to switch to death now and just snipe the crap out of
Stop being a cheeseball and just.
All right, let's just do Lore of Beasts.
And Ricky gets to roll for the changeling.
Okay, so we got transformation, keep. Curse of Man, we're here, not so bothered. Amber Spear, keep. Pens impenetrable pelt. And the 4 I'll switch for Wissons.
Okay. All right. So all the fun stuff.
And then I get to roll on which lore?
Lore of Zinch, which I have.
All right. I'll roll one die and let's see what we get here. 4.
A 4 on the Lore of Zinch is Glean Magic, which is a direct damage spell. That you use to target an enemy wizard within 18 inches. You roll a d6 and add your wizard level. You both do that. If you get higher, the target suffers a strength 3 hit and loses 1 wizard level and forgets 1 randomly determined spell.
You're going to want to switch for the magic missile, probably. The signature magic missile.
Yeah, you probably want the signature magic missile, which does d6 strength, d6 hits.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let's default then.
All right.
I mean, it would
Blue Fire of Zinch
would be kind
of
fun.
interesting, but I'm level 4, so you're at
Yeah.
a big disadvantage.
Yeah, you get to steal the spell though. That would be hilarious if it actually came up.
Yeah. Turn myself into a mountain chimera.
Yeah.
Roll off the first turn.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it
2.
Okay.
Malagor goes first.
Malagor goes first.
All right. What's your movement?
4.
Okay. Then I will move up
Coward.
to 16 inches away.
Tom is a coward.
Yes, he is. He's giving you a 12-inch charge.
And then I will roll on the Winds of Magic.
Go for it. And roll
I get an 8.
8. So what's that do on the win or on the?
That's
right.
only on your turn.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So you got 5, and I have 8.
Okay.
So
do you see if you channel?
I will see if I channel. I do not.
All right, I'll use 3 dice to cast Wisson's Wild Form. And that goes off on 17.
I'm going to allow that to go off because that just makes me stronger.
That's true.
And tougher.
All right.
So thank you.
Shut up. All right, eat this then. 5 dice, Amber Spear in your face.
Amber Spear. All right.
Big Amber Spear,
Big
boosted
Amber Spear.
one.
Oh, you're not
okay,
gonna
so
cast
we've
that.
got 11, 12, 13, 17.
17.
How about that? How do you
All
feel
right.
about that?
I don't know. I think I'm going to throw all my dice at
see.
it. Let's see if I can stop it. Yep.
Oh, yeah,
you got it.
I got
Yeah.
it.
Okay,
18.
no Amber Spear.
Haha. Suck it.
Okay, over to you then. No worries. It's just the beginning.
Put that in the suck it
I don't
bucket.
even remember what's
All
going
right.
on.
So my turn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'll declare a charge. What do I need? A
Right.
12.
You need 12, yeah.
Sweet. Oh, double ones
one.
is not going to do it.
That's the wrong double.
Okay, then we'll go to the magic phase.
All right. Reign of Chaos table. That's ready.
Boom. I got
6.
6. What's
Rot, Glorious Rot. Roll a d6 for each enemy unit and each friendly unit that contains 1 or more demons of Zinch. Oops.
that? Darn it.
On
just kill
the roll
myself?
of a 6, that unit suffers d6 plus 3 strength 3 hits.
Oh, yeah, you're done.
So roll for yourself first.
Okay.
That'll be funnier. 2. No,
yeah.
now roll for Malagor.
I don't contain any demons of...
Doesn't matter. Each enemy unit.
Oh.
It's every enemy unit, not
Oh,
just...
okay.
I needed a 6 or 1.
You need a 6.
Ah, darn it.
So nothing
All right,
happens from that.
Let's see if I channel. Nope.
Nope. So
Let's
you
see if
get
I
6
channel.
dice.
I did.
You got 4. I got
Yeah.
6.
All right, shoot your magic pew-pew at me.
All right. I'll throw 6 dice.
Seems good.
Because I'm trying to dimensionally cascade and win the...
That's right. You win the
Win by
pit if you
default.
cascade. Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, no, that's
No,
not going to
but it goes off, though.
Does
It's
it?
only a casting cost of 5.
So there's 10. There's 17. Goes off with a 17.
17, including your wizard level?
Yeah.
All right.
Pretty weak, but...
Oh,
I think I get it.
10,
I think you do.
No.
12, 16.
Yes, it goes
All
off.
right, it
All
goes
right,
off.
what does
do
it
we
do?
So it's d6 strength, d6 hits.
Do you roll, is it the same dice counts for both, or you roll
No,
separately?
you roll them separately.
So
Alright.
it's
D6.
this many.
1.
And what strength?
I suck at this.
5.
All right.
All right, so winning on a 4.
Darn it.
Okay.
Lame.
All righty. Turn 2.
All right, progressing directly to the magic phase. 9 dice.
9.
Why didn't you want to move forward, bro?
I'm going to next turn. I just want to try
he's a
and
wimp.
shoot magic and the spear in your face.
So
as
I
well.
get 5, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to try and channel this. Nope.
I'm trying channel. Nope.
Plays chaos
Okay,
dwarves.
6 dice and the spear in your face. Dimensional Cascade. Here we go.
All right.
No!
Almost.
All right. It's still going to kill you, though.
18,
16,
21.
18, 21.
All right, come on. I need double 6s here. Brah! Oh,
Nothing.
no.
Okay.
I got it only with a 12.
All
13.
Okay. All right. This is going to wound on a 2 up. Okay. Ward save.
Make your ward save.
Ward save.
Come on.
5 up, 5
Come
up.
on. Come on.
He made it! Oh,
I did not make it.
I'm just trying to make things a little more interesting here.
How many
Come
wounds
on.
does it do, Tom?
D6, so you're going to die, so we should have just...
Roll the dice, Tom.
Bro.
Roll the dice, Tom.
2 wounds. Oh, no, that's going to kill you, probably.
Yeah,
Changeling
he's
dies.
dead.
Yeah, well, I tried to give you an out.
Yeah, this is what happens when you
I'm
stand
not
back
going to
and shoot
cheat just
amber
because we're on the
spears.
air.
I really wanted to do Mountain Chimera on Mountain Chimera, although it would
You didn't want to do it that hard.
You didn't want to do it enough to charge in, did you?
You big pansy. God.
Well, I still wanted to win, of course.
Yeah.
That's all right.
This is why you don't play your Beastmen anymore.
I almost got a wound through with my magic
Almost.
pew
With
pew.
your
Almost.
magic missile, yeah.
Oh
almost.
man, I wanted to see the fight against the Mountain Chimera. I wonder what would happen if he's against something with random attacks like that. Does he also get random attacks?
Yeah, he would get the same random attacks, I guess.
So that's a
I
special rule.
I think the Malagor Mountain Chimera would still win because he has more wounds. He would still only have 2 wounds, right? 'Cause
True,
you
but
can't
he'd still
take
have
the
a 5-up
wounds.
ward.
And
He'd
it
have a
would be
5-up
Simo.
ward.
Yeah.
And it would be Simo, but all I need to do 2
5 up
wounds,
ward
and you'd have to
rerolling
do-
ones.
What's the
so
Mountain
it's
Chimera's
kind of
initiative?
like a 4.
Higher than 3?
But not really.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
6 or 5 or 6
Oh,
or something.
okay. Wow, crazy.
Still, that was fun.
I think-
I mean, I think next week we'll maybe shelve Malagor and bring in a combat character, and we'll see how the change
To fight the changeling. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm down with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Sounds
All right.
cool.
Okay, well,
You
All right.
know.
That was the pit.
won the cheaty way
Yeah.
by Malagor.
Yeah, that seems to
very-
be how you normally win these, isn't it?
Well, that's how I win all my games of Warhammer.
Yeah, yeah.
If I can't cheat, then I stand no chance.
That's why you play Chaos Dwarves.
Exactly.
They're just a cheating army.
Because you can just make the rules up.
All right,
'cause no one else
rack 'em.
knows them.
Rack them so we don't sit here and roll them the whole night.
News and rumors.
So last time when we were podcasting, the end times were just a
End
glimmer.
times were on the horizon.
Glimmer on the horizon. Tom had the 411 all about Nagash. So now that has obviously been released and a whole bunch of cool models, and End Times number 2 is on the way. So let's talk a little bit about what came out in the first release.
Yeah, so let's talk about the End Times book, but not do
our review.
major reviewing, and no like big storyline spoilers.
No, nothing like that.
But when we do the review, we're gonna have to talk about the fluff and do spoilers.
It'll be a full spoil.
Yeah, so we're gonna give everyone a chance now to read up on your Nagash books, because
Yeah.
next time we're gonna be spoiling everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything will be spoiled. I think a couple of other podcasts have already done fairly good reviews already. I haven't listened to them yet because I wanted to read before I found it all out. So let's talk a little about the releases. So there was the book itself, which is a 2-part set.
And it's beautiful.
It's what, close on 300 pages of fluff.
Yeah.
And 100
And then
page,
like a slimmer book with the
all
rules.
the scenarios.
Which
and-
also has a lot of
rules
fluff
and
in it
scenarios.
too.
Yeah,
so-
it does have fluff too.
So as
You
I
get a
understand it, the scenarios kind of pertain to a lot of the fluff that's in the book.
Yeah.
So it's here's this scenario that was this battle that was
Right.
actually fought.
Yeah, so in the big fat book, you've got, kind of a novel perspective of the battles, and then you get the rules for replaying them yourself.
Okay.
In a kind of way. So, yeah, I don't really see the scenarios as the main appeal of the book. The way it just drives forward the Warhammer narrative, and the kind of more overarching rules it introduces are really the most interesting thing.
Yeah. And so both of those are things that have been kind of lacking for a while with Warhammer. The storyline, I mean, it's kind of expanded a lot with new books coming out.
Yeah, parts of it are fleshed out, but they flesh out the history rather than
changing things. Yeah, right. Exactly. So it's kind of nice that they're now saying, okay, here's this whole new thing that's happening. Although, we can get into that next week, next podcast.
The fact that it happened before?
Well,
and now it's happening again?
Yeah.
Very Battlestar Galactica, kind of.
It is a little bit like Battlestar Galactica, right. or something like that. Okay, so let's talk about the models then that came out. So there were 2 big kits.
Yeah, so the first week we had Nagash, who came out with the book. Did we talk about that kit much last time?
I don't think so.
I guess we were still podcasting when there were just a few hazy leaked photos, but then he came out in all of his glory, and he's beautiful.
Yeah, he's pretty stunning. I bought the kit. I haven't put it together yet, but
how tall is it?
It's massive,
about 10 inches tall.
Yeah,
I think
it's bigger than the Imperial Knight, the big 40K.
Yeah, it's about as tall as as tall as this Nalgene bottle here. So if that's like 10 inches tall. I've played against Jesse's, and it's just really imposing, really, really imposing.
Cool.
And there's a lot of cool options for it too. You can have the staff or a sword in his hand. You can have a book or a whirly ball in his hand. So there's options.
Which is the subject of fierce debate among our group.
Yes.
As to which is the coolest Nagash you can build.
Yes. Yeah. There's been
Nagash with an electric guitar. That would be the coolest.
That would be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool. Yeah. That's a pretty easy conversion, I should imagine.
But the most interesting thing about this kit and the others that are coming out in the releases, they're really unleashing the full potential of the kind of digital design. Yeah. It's like 3D to a whole other level, and swooping spirits coming around the whole model. It's just kind of like nothing that I've ever seen before.
Yeah,
really.
It's a whole new level of technology behind it, you can tell. Yeah. And I think that the sculptors or artists, whatever you want to call them now, behind the models have finally been able to step out of what they used to traditionally do. I think they used to think, I still have to have this thing to support this while I sculpt this, and they don't need that anymore. Now they can get away with this big, long, swoopy spiral of plastic that would never have flown before in the traditional casting,
right? It could have never been sculpted
mastering
before.
Or any of that kind of stuff, and now they're able to do it. So
one of the questions that I have is, it looks stunning, obviously. All of these models that have come out, and we'll talk about some of the others as well, they're all kind of hovery and floaty off the ground, and very wispy in places. Is the model solid enough to support its own weight?
The Nagash one definitely seems solid, because the whole bottom is this billowy cloak that then turns into spirits. So it gives still a very wide, base of support to the model itself.
Well, yeah, and it's on one of the big bases, the Ragnarok bases.
The 150 by 100.
That thing's it's not going to fall over. Now, I did notice, but I don't think Jesse had his fully assembled when I was playing him. I think he had one assembly off of the base, so it was kind of bouncy. It was kind of funny because Nagash was kind of springing a bit. Yeah, like on a pogo stick.
Space hopping Nagash.
Yeah. So, but I think once you get it fully assembled, I think that there's a counter spiral that stops that. So,
okay.
And then in the second week, the Mortarks came out, who are Nagash's servants. Okay. You've got the triple kit that makes Manfred, Neferata, or Arkan the Black. And that's the one that they're riding these, what do they call those beasts? Dread Abyssals?
Yeah, Dread Abyssals, yeah.
And that, again, it's like this big kind of flying, floating kind of bone construct that it looks like it's only held to the base by this tiny part of the tail that's kind of stuck to the base. And then it has all these spirits floating around it. But I was reading in White Dwarf, and if you look really close at the 3D images on the GW website, you can tell that the spirits are all kind of sculpted to be supporting different parts of the model as well. Yeah. So it's not actually only supported by that one tail part. The spirits, while looking super awesome, kind of act as extra support to it too.
Okay, cool.
So it seems like they've put enough thought into that. You drop it, one of those spirits is going to fall off or break or something.
Yeah.
But, say la vie, look after your models.
I mean, look after your models. And
sure.
Imagine if you had dropped a metal model that big in the day, it would have exploded.
No, thank you.
Or left a crater in your floor.
So just then to kind of move on from the models,
Mm-hmm.
The Mortarks introduce one variant in the rules that's quite interesting, and then we can talk about any of the other little bits that stand
the little
out.
rule tidbits.
Yeah. So and that one is that they are not ridden monsters. Mm-hmm. They are actually just monster.
Yeah, troop type monster,
and they've got a high toughness and a high number.
Yeah,
of
one
wounds.
stat line to cover the entire model.
Yeah. So do you think this is the shape of things to come? Are we getting rid of ridden monsters?
I would love it to be.
Yeah, it's so much simpler.
It's simpler, and you would see ridden monsters on the table again.
Because if your combined profile gave you more than 6 wounds, you'd be able to survive that first cannon shot.
Right, exactly. And, all 6 wounds are protected by whatever ward save you put on that character then. Yeah. That would be
or armor save, or high toughness. So,
So the way, if you kind of study the stat line, the way it looks is if you assume this Dread Abyssal is some standard dragon-type monster, it looks like you just straight up added the wounds of a character and the monster together, straight up added the attacks of the two together, and then selected like the highest weapon skill initiative that you would have between the rider and the mount, because it has pretty high initiative still, and like the vampire one has the higher initiative than Arkham. So it looks like they're considering the rider when it comes to initiative and weapon skill.
And, when you think about it, a lot of the tests that you do, like any of the characteristic tests when you're ridden, you're always taking the higher one anyway. And, like for attacks, you're combining things, so it was really just that sort of, hey, my dragon with an elf on the back is actually better once the elf is dead. That you're trying to get past that.
Right. Or unridden monsters are awesome still in Warhammer.
They
but
are good.
As soon as you put a character on there, it just becomes terrible because you put your general somewhere that he's going to get shot by a cannon.
Yeah.
So, I would like it if this was the shape of things to come. I don't know if that will. I don't know if it would end up pushing the balance a little far in the other direction. Maybe.
I don't know. I think that.
Well, but is that a bad thing?
I don't know.
Do you play fantasy because you want to have like?
Because I want to see 100 infantry models on the table.
That's why Ricky plays.
That's why I play, and I think you can still do that. But I also play fantasy because I want to see big frickin' flying monsters.
Yeah,
it's true.
And we don't get to see that now.
But if I have something with, like, Manfred has 10 wounds, I think. And if you slapped a 4-up board on there, you've got 10 wounds protected by a 4-up board. That's pretty great.
Cheaty face is what that is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cheaty. But anyway, if it turned out if that became the way things were, then I would put, my Sorcerer Prophet on a flying bull every day. It would be awesome.
Yeah, and I think that would be great if that's how it goes. Of course, thinking about the Wood Elves, they'd still mess up how they do the Sisters of Twilight. If you put them on a dragon, it's like, what? Anyway.
It would, if that's how it was going to be, it would require the 9th edition book to say kind of like, go back and forget whatever your army book says, just
do it this way.
Add the wounds together, do it this way, whatever. So I don't know if they would want to put out such a big correction to everything like that.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that we were hypothesizing too, was does this mean cavalry will now be 2 wounds?
Nah.
Which would be...
They used to be.
Awesome.
You think that would be good?
It would be so good, because...
But cavalry all has a 1-up armor save, like it's already hard as balls
take
to
away
kill.
the mounted save.
Take away the save.
Take away the save and just give them 2 wounds. Then all of a sudden fast cav become viable. Small units of cavalry.
Fast cav already the most viable unit in the game.
Well, no. Heavy, like small units of heavy cav, would be used more.
Yes. 2-up armor save is way better to play against than a 1-up armor save.
Right.
Because your strength actually matters then.
Yeah.
Even with
strength
the
4 matters, armor piercing matters.
Yes, even with the 2 wounds, you're probably more likely to be able to kill one of them than you would be like strength 4 against a 1-up armor save.
I think you have exactly the same probability of wounding.
And then you can get away with having 5 guys and actually be able to have them do something in the game. You know, I think it'd be fun.
I don't know about this.
You don't know about this. He likes
a little
this 1-up armor save.
It's a little unconventional.
Grumpy old dwarf over here.
We'll see what happens. Yeah. Okay. Other rules that End Times have brought about and much debate is, of course, the 50% lords and 50% heroes.
Mm-hmm.
So the first question that I remember somebody asking was, does that mean you don't have to have 25% core? No.
You still have to have
25% core, but it now means that you can have up to
Right. You can have core and then just characters if you want.
Yeah.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
You know, in 8th edition, I don't really see that as such a big advantage anyway.
I don't either.
There's very few armies that I think, you know, you would really want to spend more than you already do on characters.
Well, I think the big difference, really the way that I look at it is sometimes you run out of Lord allowance or hero allowance because you wanted a certain type of build.
Right.
And so now this gives you the ability. So for example, you want to take... I'm going to use Wood Elves again. The Sisters of Twilight on a Dragon, they're in your hero allowance. You also want a BSB. You might not be able to do that under certain points restrictions, but now with End Times, you can.
So you're maybe not changing your total investment in characters, but you get to take your pick between that. You just get to round
things out just a little bit better, I think. Because I think, and I know that's what I would do. Like for me, like with the goblins, it might come down to being like, oh man, I'm short by 20 points in lords, so I have to bump this lord level hopper guy down to a hero level.
How many characters would you get if you spent 75% of your points on characters? It's a lot of goblin characters.
That's a lot.
You could have a whole unit of great weapon bosses.
Yeah, you could. It'd be pretty fun. But
your elite infantry.
I know. Rah! And they would just all die, but whatever.
Yeah, because they're tough 4 at least.
Yeah, but they only have light armor.
I
mean, so one really great thing is now you can take like a combat lord on a dragon or something plus your level 4. You're not choosing between those options anymore.
Yeah.
There's a couple of armies that I could see having pretty nasty builds now, like Dark Elves. You can put a whole lot of characters on Pegasuses and just having them flying around murdering stuff. But yeah,
it's not like Dark Elves need a helping hand to be more filthy.
Yeah.
But I also think it helps some of the older books a little bit, or some of the more unique builds. Like it helps your Night Goblins, because now Scarsnake, even though you're paying a tax to get that leadership 8, you can still have a bit of space in your lords.
Yeah, I can still take the Wizarding Hat and Scarsnake instead of just one or the other. You know, so it makes it more fun.
Are there any other major rules changes?
Well, there's a whole Undead Legion deal, but maybe should we do that in the review?
We should just mention it. I mean, yeah, it's fine. So the Undead Legion is where they've melded the Tomb Kings and vampire counts, and you're able to take a single army. And have from both army books in there.
Right.
And the Tomb Kings, I think, get some of the benefits of what the vampire counts get in terms of being able to march when they're near their general.
So there's no Neokara and undead versus regular undead anymore. Everything just counts as undead. So
and Crumble goes away, right?
Does Crumble go away?
I don't think so. I think
you still Crumble.
I think the Hierophant rule goes away, right, with the Crumble.
Yes.
I think that's what it is.
Oh, okay. I knew something helped.
I don't know.
We can do that in that part in the review.
We'll go into details of the Undead Legion in the review, because a lot of people have been talking about some very nasty combinations of things that are now possible in the Undead Legion. Like you can get a unit of Grave Guard that always hits on a 3-up with a reroll, and by combining banners and stuff between the books.
Which is awesome.
You can, cool. It's cool.
I like that. At the end of the day, there's nothing in either book that cannot be killed.
Right. And Tomb Kings were so terrible already that, now somebody can actually make their Tomb Kings. Some people will look at, how can I abuse these rules? Some people will look at it like, now I can just supplement my Tomb Kings a little bit and play them. They can actually be a competitive army, which is awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And then finally also any army is now able to cast this new lore, the
any
lore
wizard,
of undeath.
Lore of
undeath. Which is effectively, it's at least 50% of this new type of spell, the summon spell.
Mm-hmm.
So you can summon legions of undead.
Right, so there's a spell. Yeah, so the summoning spells all have kind of a points limit and a troop type that you can summon.
Yeah.
And then as long as it's from the Undead Legion, you can bring that unit along.
So I wonder, and now we can kind of go into the rumor section a little bit. I wonder then with End Times Book 2 or whatever it's going to be called, it definitely seems to be chaos focused. There's a bunch of Nurgle stuff that has been spoiled.
Nurgle is waxing.
But I wonder, is there going to be another lore that potentially allows, or another thing that allows you to summon demons?
Hope so.
If we have,
hope so. You like that?
I would love it.
And then you have to pay some nasty Nurgle stuff.
No.
Zinch. No, but if this book is all Nurgle, it might just be summon Nurgle stuff.
That doesn't make any sense.
No, it would be demons.
Well,
it would be demons.
Maybe. But the whole rumor of this book is that it's very Nurgle focused.
Yeah.
Because Nurgle is supposed to be like the antithesis to Nagash.
Well, this whole first book is called Nagash, but there's Tomb Kings in there, so
it's true.
I don't see why a chaos book wouldn't have some demons in there, especially when you look at the rules that they put on the new Nurgle guys. They can be used in the demon army, they can be used in the beastman army.
Yeah, let's talk about those Nurgle guys a bit more.
The models
for the rumors.
Yeah, what are they called? What do they do?
So this is a news still because we already have one Nurgle release that has hit the pre-orders.
Dwarf,
It's in White Dwarf. Everything you have. The Blight King, what are they called? The Putrid Blight Kings of Nurgle.
Yeah. Charming.
Yeah. So we were talking about this a little before as well. Like, Nurgle is one of those things that some people just love the aesthetic, and anything Nurgly that comes out they're going to love. I'm not one of those people. I just find it...
I too am
It's just
not
a gimmick that I really buy into. This, the whole...
I mean, I get it. I understand why people like it. I also, my joke earlier about, hey, it's not glue, it's Nurgle, I think is another one of the reasons why people like it so much, is because the conversions can be a lot of fun.
Are good.
But I don't like the aesthetic of it much.
I can't imagine like sitting there and painting like a bunch of tumors and boils and pus. Like,
it's actually my second favorite chaos.
Really?
Your second? Yeah. Oh, we were ranking these.
Yeah.
So what? Your number one is Zinch.
Yeah.
Followed by Nurgle.
Zinch, then Nurgle,
and then
Slaanesh, and then I wouldn't even consider Khorne.
Yeah.
Huh, interesting.
I would have my balls cut off first.
And what
I go Zinch, Slaanesh, Khorne, Nurgle.
See, for me, it's Khorne.
Khorne first.
Khorne first, because
you just love the rage, the god of rage.
I just like it. I like that. It's like, screw magic. I'm just going to beat your brains in, and then Zinch, and then Nurgle, and then Slaanesh is my least favorite.
Oh yeah,
never liked Slaanesh. So interesting. I think you could probably ask any Warhammer gamer, and they'll give you a different answer.
Yeah.
So yes, you've got these Putrid Blight Kings.
So
there's a special character too. What's his name?
Gutrot Spume.
Which I actually really.
I think he's the one model out of the release that I think is really well done.
Like all
those
the tentacles
and stuff. And he's supposed to be like this Nurgle pirate kind of dude. He's like the leader of the Plague Fleet. Just like a Nurgle pirate fleet.
Yeah, and I love that they gave him the rules to walk underwater. Anything, even like the deepest of water, like anything that's impassable water, he can still walk through. And you're like, yeah.
So I haven't actually seen the rules for these yet. So the Blight Kings, you get a set of 5 models for $55. That's right, and they're like ogre-sized chaos. They're like chaos warriors.
They're 40 mil bases, but they still are infantry.
They still count as infantry?
Yeah.
Not monstrous infantry?
They're not monstrous infantry. They are still infantry.
But size-wise, the models are like ogre size, pretty much, right?
Close. If you
Not
look
quite.
at them, when you look at them in like when they're in situation, like on a table with a bunch of other models next to them, they look like Chosen, just bigger Nurgle Chosen. You know,
fatter.
And I think what they probably ran into was they were trying to design these awesome epic models, and they're like, we can't make them fit on a 25 mil.
Right.
You know what?
Yeah,
Screw
probably.
it. Let's throw them on a 40. And
because their fluff is like their uber Chosen, basically.
They are.
They've gone beyond the regular Chosen
and
are Nurgle's
they have
favorites.
3 wounds, I think. Let's see. Where did they go?
So they're definitely not in monstrous infantry? It's
are
not just a misprint?
No.
Interesting.
Well, unless it was a misprint in the White Dwarf.
Oh, that's in White Dwarf.
Yeah, that was in White Dwarf.
So no stomping then.
The rules for them also come with the kit. Which is new.
So that's a new course of affairs as well, because all of these end time kits are coming with the rules in them.
That I noticed actually with the Wood Elf kits that came out. They came with at least the stat line and the points value.
I noticed that on the gyrocopter I just made as well. They had the stat line in, which seemed new.
Yeah, so maybe this is more of a sign of things to come as well. Who knows? Also, an interesting point for the End Times. They have like their whole Warhammer the End Times logo, and it's on the all of the stuff.
Right, all these new releases are not released under like a Warriors of Chaos banner. It's all
the End Times.
Kind of is the way they're released.
Yeah, that's interesting. So we've got the Putrid Blight Kings and Gut Rot Spume.
Gut Rot Spume.
Or whatever is that?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
And then what's on the rumor mill?
We know what's coming out this week. We've got this triple kit.
Yeah, it's been all over Twitter and the internet. It's another triple kit like the Mortarks.
So it's like it's basically the Nurgle version of the Mortarks.
Yeah.
They're the lieutenants of whoever is the main hero of this.
And one's like the king of Nurglings, which I just love that.
I love that idea.
All Nurglings get regen within some distance of him.
Yeah, and I just want to have a whole Nurgling army just around with him.
So the pictures of this new kit are pretty widely available. It's like classic Nurgle. It's just this big gross beast.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
By the time Aiden
Nurgle
publishes
fans
this,
will like
it'll
it.
be public, which is tomorrow.
Tomorrow it'll be on the.
Wow, you have such faith in my editing skills.
Oh yes.
Boom.
Anyway, Nurgle fans will be very happy. It's a big pustular beast.
Yeah, it looks like an
it.
ape and a worm mated.
Yeah,
that's what you get. So.
Nice.
I think that these kind of Mortarks, they're called the Maggot Lords. Is that right?
I think so.
Which is kind of weird because that's what that was Tamakon's name in the Tamacon book. He was the Maggot Lord. Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, because that's how it starts, right? With a maggot, and it kind of takes over your.
Tamacon himself is not actually he's like this little gross worm who just lives inside the body of whoever.
Oh.
And that's why he was able to like basically level up into an ogre.
Yeah.
And then
like Stargate.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, so these new guys are called the Maggot Lords as well, I guess. So. Just a Nurgle thing.
I wonder, and so do we know? Is there like a prime big character that this is?
Well, I'm kind of confused about this.
There is.
I keep hearing the name Glotkin being thrown around.
Yeah, Glotkin is coming.
Okay.
And what they've shown is that he's been hidden in plain sight. There's actually a poster of him up in Games Workshops right now.
But is that the poster looks like this the new beastie who's coming out?
No, it's definitely it's definitely different.
It's different?
Yeah, from what I've seen. So, I think that he's going to be kind of the same. I think he's going to be another big, Ragnarok-sized, riding a Nurgle beastie, ugly thing. But that's what I've heard.
Because I keep hearing,
be wrong.
I keep hearing Glotkin being thrown around, which is I thought if a Chaos book is coming out, it's going to be all about Archaon, right?
Yeah, you would think, unless there's.
Well, they said. Yeah, geez, they were breaking it back down here. Let me see if I can find it. I'll see if I can find the latest rumors, guys.
You look them up. Meanwhile, I'm going to speculate a little. Mm-hmm. So these Putrid Blight King guys can be used by both Warriors of Chaos and Demons of Chaos.
And Beasts.
And Beastmen can use them too?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
so,
all the Chaos factions can take them.
Okay.
And it's going to be the same, and it's the same with the big guys too.
Ah, interesting. So are we expecting then some kind of, unifier of the chaos powers?
Yeah.
Yes.
And like the Undead Legion.
Is that going to be Archaon then? I mean, it was
most likely
the Storm of Chaos. It was Archaon, right? He's the Ever-Chosen. He's the dude that's kind of behind everything.
Yeah,
right?
and the first book of the End Times, the Nagash book, sets up Archaon as the
man.
Yeah, as the leader of the incursion from the north.
So are we expecting more Nurgle stuff beyond this? Or is it going to be like 2 weeks of Nurgle and then there's going to be like 2 weeks of...
I was expecting it to just be these 2 weeks of Nurgle, but now if Glotkin is actually coming and he's Nurgle, then... if we have this triple kit, which is the lieutenants of somebody, then you've got to have the somebody whose lieutenants they are.
Yeah.
And they're all Nurgle, so it wouldn't make sense for them to be Archaon's lieutenants.
Unless he has lots of lieutenants? Who knows?
3 from each. Who knows?
3 from each faction.
This is all
seems
speculation.
A lot. Yeah.
I mean, the rumor that I heard was that the Chaos Legion, whatever it is, rules are not going to give you just blanket access to all the Chaos books. It's going to be kind of mono Nurgle army, Cult of Slaanesh, which combines Slaanesh with Dark Elves.
Yeah.
So that's a rumor. I don't know if it's true.
I mean, I think that would be better because...
I think that would be better. Just allowing
warriors
people free
and
reign.
demons are both
They're already
pretty
top
strong.
tier already.
Yeah.
So you can have warriors with 2 skill cannons.
Yeah, like they need it.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I think that would be good and interesting because then you started to get more themed armies.
Exactly. I would rather they not just allow you to take whatever you want from Chaos. I know you'd probably like it. You just want people to bring in whatever collection of models they like.
Yeah, as long as they're painted, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Well, and I know that Anthony, our resident demon player, is busy working on his 3rd demon army.
Nurgle?
It's Nurgle. And he's apparently in a little bit of a Nurgle-gasm because of how much fun he's having painting the models and getting them already. And now this new stuff's all coming out. So I expect that Sparkle Party 5, he might unveil his
Nurglus.
Oh yeah, I think he's on track to have it ready. Last time I talked to him.
All right, interesting. So that's a bunch of speculation and rumors.
That was a bunch of speculation. Yeah. Where are we going?
We're going to speculate about Anthony.
We don't really know who's the Nagash of the new book, basically. Right. Is it going to be Archaon? Is it this new Glotkin guy? We don't know yet.
So here's the poster.
So now we're looking at the poster of what Rumo guys are saying is Glotkin.
The head of the beast is completely different.
You think? To me, that could just be the new beast.
So
to me, that could just be... Anyway.
Interesting.
Interesting things in weeks to come.
Yeah. So there's that. And then there was the dots that you were connecting earlier, or that other people were connecting, where, there's rumored to be 4 major releases related to the end times.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one was Nagash, which is obviously death themed. And then the second one seems
to be pretty Nurgle heavy,
which is
pestilence themed.
Which means if you continue with the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, that gives you
death, pestilence, war, and famine.
Yeah. So, and that would be interesting.
Ricky thinks it's all coincidence.
Oh, I think it is just coincidence because those armies were already that anyways, or those, and I think that they were able to pair them together like that. But I think that's just a coincidence of how they line up. And I do like it. I think it's cool that you can make that alignment, but I just think it's still a coincidence. All right, so here's what they're telling us. End Times Chaos 3 weeks, the one that we're in right now. Blight King's Gutrot Spume, Maggot Lords, which is what is coming out tomorrow or this weekend. And then week 3 is Glotkin and the End Times Chaos book.
Okay.
Oh.
And then we go through some Blood Angels.
This is all new. This is a long...
Yeah, this is the Q4 rumored releases. Okay. Then we go through some Blood Angels.
So then that means the Chaos book is coming out with just the Nurgle release.
With just those Nurgle models. Yeah.
Archaon has a model, though, right?
Archaon has a model, and it's a cool model. It
model,
didn't need to be redone.
Yeah, and
if any model needed redoing, it was Nagash.
And I actually, from what I've heard, Archaon is not being redone. Yeah. One of the rumors I heard, they were like, he doesn't need to be redone.
I'm totally fine with that. The model's awesome, but I know there was people were hoping that this Chaos release brought some other things that kind of need to be redone. Like there was rumored to be a Chaos Dragon kit with Egram Van Horstman, who's like an old character.
So after the Blood Angels, which apparently is only 1 week, there's a Chaos Part 2 for 2 weeks. Okay, the Chaos Wave is not believed to be linked to the End Time series, so is expected to have dual-use models for both Warhammer and 40k. Usual suspects listed in rumor chatter of the Greater Demons, but there is talk of Nurgle getting much more love from the studio this time around than the other 3 powers. Great Unclean One chatter is higher than the others suspect.
So, I mean, the Great Unclean One has been the weakest of the Greater Demon models for a long time. I mean, it's really tiny. The Forge World one is pretty good. But really big and chunky and
solid
resin and expensive as a result. So I could absolutely see them doing a Great Unclean One kit. But what else would they do? Who knows?
Yep. Okay. So then after Chaos Part 2, we're going into the holiday bundles.
And I think anything further out than this is just pure speculation.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. Terrain special deals and last more Hobbit stuff.
A Hobbit release,
there's going to be some Hobbit. Then January is going to see End Times 3, Book 3, featuring the Skaven. Yay! And some additional chaos.
I do believe that. I believe it has to be Skaven, the next book.
Yeah, and
they're such an End Times race.
And I can see Skaven, like Clan Pestilence, getting a big push on this one. To pair
Famine, Horsemen of Famine,
to pair with Nurgle. So because they're saying some additional chaos picks up. Then Necrons, early mid Q1, and that's all I have.
As it goes.
And then to go into the realm of pure speculation, apparently the last End Times book is elves with the dark elves and the high elves combining.
Huh. Interesting. So the sundering is being unmade. The unsundering.
The unsundering.
The first rendering, isn't that what it's called?
Slight spoiler alert. The first End Times book already hints at a kind of alliance between Teclis and Malekith.
Yeah.
A kind of in cahoots about something. Anyway, so there's a lot of speculation we just threw out there, but
we'll see what happens.
It's going to be interesting. I'm just interested to see the week 3 of this current Chaos release.
Yeah, I really hope the book comes out because I want it to be used.
Whether the book is called Glotkin then, because the last...
Who knows?
It seems like if they're all going to be called after somebody. I was
might not be
this
that
one
sort
would
of
be
pattern.
Nagash.
I mean, the first one was Nagash because, he's kicking off the End Times effectively.
Yeah.
But, this could be who knows what else.
Yeah. I just want it to be out in time for Sparkle Party. That's all I want.
So that people can use it?
Yeah.
Okay, exciting times ahead.
Yes, for sure.
Just, just before we move on from talking about the End Times, I did want to just ask you guys your opinion about something which, people have been talking a lot about, which is that does End Times count as official Warhammer rules now? Or does it just count as a supplement that, you agree on with an opponent and use it? Or is this a fundamental change to the game? Is that how you see it? Or
I think like any game, if you don't have the book, how can you use the rules?
Right.
And so it's just like, when tournament organizers organize their players pack, for example, Ricky always says, well, you can take bound monsters and sorcerer's pacts from the Storm of Magic.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes it the rules, right, for that tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's the same with the End Times. It's like if you're playing with an opponent and you're both happy to use those rules, that's great. If you're playing at a tournament and the tournament is using those rules, that's also great.
Mm-hmm.
So
if somebody just said to you, meet me on Saturday, 2,500 point game of Warhammer, you would assume that you're building a list to standard conventional Warhammer specifications still.
Big rule book, no allies, and army books. That's the only thing.
That's kind of how I see it too. But some people are saying the way that...
Currently, under the current system, or right now, because there is that limbo, I would always ask. But I would assume that you're just doing the normal 8th edition book stuff. So it's hard to know, right?
and we'll see what happens when the next book comes out, because they could say, in the end times, now Chaos gets to do this stupidly ridiculous thing. Because they're not stupidly ridiculous enough already. Yeah. All right.
We still don't see him winning a lot, so.
You don't see them winning a lot. Everybody else does.
Oh.
Just because your night goblins can rampage all over any warrior's army.
Just bring on the chaos.
More on that later.
Actually, that is a perfect opportunity for us to segue right into the tournament
zone.
Tournament zone.
The tournament zone.
All right, so just want to briefly cover the last tournaments we went to since we last podcast. One was Victory or Death, which is a new 2-day GT that's going to be run again next year, held up in North Vancouver, run by the Chumphammer guys. So if you haven't listened to the Chumphammer podcast and you don't mind harsh language, you should tune in to those guys.
But only if you have time for more than one Warhammer podcast.
It's true. Right. It's true. Chances are, if they're listening to us, they've got time for at least two, because everybody else listens to Garage Hammer before they listen to us.
So check out Chumphammer if you have time for more than two podcasts. More than two Warhammer podcasts.
I feel like it's the Spanish Inquisition. Our two main weapons. So yes, we traveled up, myself, Ricky, and a couple of other guys from the Seattle area, Anthony and Ryan, and Tiffany came along to Squire for us.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a really great event. We were in,
I loved it up there. It was a fun time.
The Chop. Chop is the North Vancouver Warhammer Club. We were in their main headquarters, which is like a
Eagles Lodge?
Eagles, social lodge, whatever they are.
So cool. Such a cool space.
It was a great space.
Yeah. So it's like a social club kind of thing?
Yeah, they're like, the Eagles are like the Rotary Club and the Lions and the Elks and all those other types of social clubs that exist that you're looking at. I have no
idea what you're talking about.
Kind of
is
like
this
the
like
Masons.
Some Eyes Wide Shut kind of
It's like the Masons, but without all the craziness.
Without the spanking.
Without the spanking and the funny handshakes.
Doesn't sound so fun.
You basically pay your dues, get cheap beer, and a free room. So that's how it goes for them. So they hosted the event. They have a whole bunch of scenery. It's the same scenery that was a lot of it was the same scenery that was used for
Wet Coast.
Yeah. So it was
seems to be the same guy.
Good quality. They had I think it was 28 in the field. It was 2,500 points. There was.
I was trying to pull up the spreadsheet,
teeny tiny bit of comp. I don't think there was.
Was there comp?
There was definitely a players pack that clarified a bunch of the rules.
Yeah, because Dale's pretty good about that kind of stuff.
But I don't know if was there any actual army comp.
I don't think there really was. I think there were. Was there like 4 special characters that weren't allowed?
No, that was Wet Coast. So,
was that Wet Coast?
Yeah, no, I don't think there was any comp.
I don't think he had anything. I think it was kind of just bring whatever, but it was all vanilla books.
Yeah, army book.
Yeah.
And then he had secret scenarios.
Those were fun.
Each, but everything was everything battle line?
Everything was essentially battle line, and then there were objectives that each player placed.
Yep.
Or there were 3 objectives that we placed. There was 1 dead center and 2 that
each person placed 1.
Each person placed 1. Plus, there was a secret mission that we would. I think there was 6, and he gave us.
Yeah, and you picked 1 for each time.
We ended up using 1 each time, and they kind of changed the way the game played a tiny bit, but not really. Mostly, it was like kill their general or kill their highest wizard or whatever, and so it's usually stuff you're trying to do anyways. But some of them were kind of fun to try for.
Yeah, and then you could also claim. 1 extra point for each piece of terrain you owned. Up to 5. So I think
it kind of became a land grab at the last turn of the game.
Yeah,
you try and grab
it was win, loss, draw. So 20 points for a win. I think was it 11 points or 10 points for a draw and 5 for a loss or something like that. And so the maximum you could get was, I think, 43 when everything was all said and done, and with the minimum being 5. And it was a field of 28. There was a wide range of players there in terms of, like there was one guy who, I think it was like his 4th game of Warhammer. Right the way through to, all the regular tournament goers. So I thought it was great. There was good food nearby. Atmosphere was really good. Prizes were great.
Oh yeah.
There was
I like how they did the prizes too. That was fun.
There was a lot of raffle prizes.
Charity raffle, which was fun.
Ricky and
I cleaned up on that
Ricky
somehow.
took most of them home. And as Dale was saying at the end of it, Dale's the guy that organized it. The Americans who came up donated most of the charity compared to the Canadians, which is why we ended up winning most of the prizes.
Yeah.
And then they had a big sword, a medium-sized sword, and a little sword for the 1, 2, and 3 for general, or for overall. Yeah. And then they had like resin dragons for all the best.
Yeah, there were trophies for all the bests of different things. There was 2 for painting, 1 for general, and 1 for overall, or no, one for
sports.
Sport. Yeah. Right.
So it was great.
There were a lot of prizes handed out.
Yep. I brought Ricky Skaven. Long and the short of it is, I lost my first game and then submarined my way to table 1 for the end and took home the big sword. Which, I was feeling kind of good about because the Canadians came down for Sparkle Party 4 and I didn't play in it, and Tom, you didn't play in it.
I didn't play in it.
Zach didn't play in it. So like 3 of our top kind of Seattle tournament players didn't play, and Canadians came and cleaned up and kind of went, we're so much better than everybody else. So I was kind of glad that when we went back up, I came in first and Anthony came 4th and Ricky came 6th overall.
Yep.
So it was like, we had a good showing.
I know I came in 6th, which
is just awesome.
It just makes me laugh every time. I don't know how that happened.
But to be fair, you got what, 2 Warriors players?
Was it 2?
Did you get Jordan and Big Pat?
I just got Big Pat. I
just
didn't
Big
get
Pat?
Jordan. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just the one Warrior.
I had a Lizardman. I had an Ogre. I had a High Elf.
And Wood Elves.
A Wood Elf, and then the Warriors.
Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, and for me, I took your cheaty face list. The Skaven with the bell and the assassins and the double A bombs, and
I did write the list for him.
Yeah, he did.
So really, I won the tournament.
It was my first time playing.
Would you have
Skaven,
pushed them straight forward as skillfully as they did?
Probably not. I probably would have made more mistakes.
That's pretty much all I did. I pushed them forward. I lost my first game because of the Banner of the World Dragon. It's like everything I had that could do damage had magical attacks. And then my second game was against a new guy who just gave me an entire line to double charge with A-bombs. It wiped out his whole army in like 2 turns. So it wasn't any great skill on my part. It was a filthy list and a lot of dice rolling.
Yeah.
And then at the end, I cheated to win the last game, as I found out. Casting the dreaded 13th into combat, which Ricky had assured me was absolutely fine to do.
You should never listen to me. I cheated everything, apparently.
The Dimensional Cascade team, we're going to get known as the filthiest players on the circuit.
I'm okay with that. We're awfully charming, good looking, and our armies look great, so we can get away with a few things.
Like I said, I can't remember how we used to play it back at the GW store, but I think we just allowed it to happen into combat.
Yeah.
Because there's so many limitations on that spell anyways.
And it's a 25 to cast.
And people, I think, overreact to that spell.
Yeah.
But the fact is, it has to be infantry.
Yeah.
The fact that, it can do 4d6 like casualties.
Yep.
But
That's still less than what dwellers can do, for example.
That's still a lot less than what a big dwellers or a big template can do.
Yeah.
And it takes a 25 to cast.
Yeah.
And I think people tend to just overreact to that spell because they feel so helpless against it.
Yep. And I think knowing that I couldn't cast it into combat, I probably would have hung back for a turn or two, because he had big units of infantry, right? He had a big unit of ghouls that really, if I had hit that with the spell a couple of times before they got into combat, would have been much more beneficial for me. Anyway,
you cheated your way
my way to the top and took home the big sword. So lesson learned: if you want to win, you have to cheat.
Or be Canadian.
So that was Victory or Death. Hoping that will definitely be run again next year. Depending on how we organize the Masters, that may be part of the Masters circuit next year.
I sure hope so. Yeah.
We'll see.
Because it was a really well-run tournament. Really fun crowd.
Yep.
Great space.
Yep.
So
I got to play one of the Chop guys. I got to play Pete. I hadn't played any of the Chop. Oh, I'd played Dale once before. The Chumphammer guys, I mean.
Yeah.
I'd played Dale, and I got to play Pete. I still have to play Pat.
I just need to play Pete still. Because I played Dale at GodaCon. And that was the first time I'd ever even met those guys.
Yeah, I played Dale at GodaCon too.
And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think I beat Dale because of cheating again. Not actually cheating, just casting Dwellers Below on turn 5. And it went from a stomp on his part to oh my gosh, you just rolled 6s for all your characters and they all went down below.
Now
the game is mine.
Get behind. That's fine.
The cheating within the
rules. That was
with
the old Wood Elf book too. So what can you say?
I miss my old Wood Elves.
Oh, just start playing with the 7th edition book then.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah. Okay, so that was Victory or Death. Next one we went to was the OFCC Team Challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So the three of us went down along with Ronnie Cox, who
played our 4th man.
He was our 4th man.
Yep.
Because Taylor is still... he has his Dark Elf army fully assembled. We just needed to get him playing some more games.
We need to get him back on the mic.
Yeah, back on the mic.
We must have lost a contingent of our female listeners since Taylor left the group.
Yep, all 3 of them stopped listening. We went down there with Ronnie. Tom was the captain. So
I was captain of the team.
Tom, talk us through what OFCC was.
What OFCC is all about. So it was the first time we've been, and it seems the OFCC group is quite a tight-knit group, it seems. They have their own way of playing that's very much more focused on sportsmanship than we're used to. That doesn't sound very good for us.
Yeah.
But, we like to cheat. We like
to take hard lists.
We like to bring filthy lists.
Yeah.
It's just, they put much more focus on friendly play, kind of.
Yeah.
We're all very friendly to each other, but we do it while bringing filthy lists.
Bring the pain.
Trying to bring the pain.
We like being mentally challenged. That's the thing. I think that...
I'm sure those guys play competitively a lot of the time. It's just OFCC in general is a time they all meet up and play slightly friendlier Warhammer. And which as an outsider coming into is kind of a difficult thing to get your head around a little bit when you're used to playing in a particular way.
Yeah.
And
it was definitely, a lot of the people who were there, it's like their 7th year going or 8th year going. It's been running for like 11 years or something. You can tell a lot of these people only see each other once a year, and it's at OFCC, and they only play Warhammer, 3 times a year. And one of those times is OFCC. And so, going into it, we submitted kind of pretty much, here's our tournament lists. We're going to a tournament. Here's our tournament lists.
Right.
And it's a subjective comp.
Well, we all kind of toned down our lists a little bit compared to what we would bring to like a face stompy tournament. Maybe Aiden didn't.
Maybe I didn't.
I toned mine down a little bit because we were told, the list is supposed to be a little softer. But I don't think we really understood the degree to which we were supposed to soften.
Yeah.
Which, is partly on us because we didn't, think about enough about what this event is.
Yeah.
And partly just because it's the kind of thing you don't really know until you've been a few times because it's entirely subjective comp. They have there's a system where you submit lists, and then people look at those lists and decide whether it's friendly enough to be an OFCC.
Yeah.
So they had strict guidelines, like for Chaos Dwarfs, you can't take 3 magma cannons, you can't take 2 destroyers.
Yep.
It was at 2,800 points, so I could have taken 2 destroyers. So there's some hard guidelines like that.
Yep.
So I guess we thought, as long as we build our lists within those hard guidelines, we're good.
Yeah.
Whereas they wanted you to kind of go much towards the softer end than that. So
yeah. And I think in the end, we must have got it about right, because I think on Battle we finished in the middle of the pack.
Exactly. So we did, after getting initially some bad reactions to our lists. I ended up taking out the Screaming Bell and a level 4. Yeah, right.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Here's my list now. I've got no
had
magic.
level 1 wizards.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a little back and forth about the lists. Which at the time, this was all done online. So at the time, some of the comments that were made about our lists could be read as kind of aggressive, whatever. Yeah. After meeting those guys in real life, I don't think, there's no hard feelings about any of that.
Understanding
a little better. And the event itself was awesome. I think I had a really good time there. Enjoyed all of my games. So I came away from that event with a much higher opinion of it than I did going in, just based on these rules about lists and stuff. Mm-hmm. It all seemed to make sense.
Yeah, and
the event itself,
the pairings for the team events were kind of more on get the 2 captains together and decide what are going to be the 4 best games we can play.
What are going to be fun games. Yeah. Which, I had never been to a team event before, but going into it, the kind of mindset, being a competitive player, my mindset was that, I try and negotiate for games that I think my team can win, right?
Yeah, of course.
It's
a competition, right?
Yeah,
that's
in
what you
ETC,
want.
you would, you pick.
Yeah.
There's a different system for kind of setting matchups, but it's all about trying to min-max your players against lists they can beat.
Yeah.
So I kind of had a similar mindset, but then it became obvious that, you're supposed to actually pick lists that match up fairly against each other.
Then how did I keep playing Chaos Warriors?
Everybody requested to play against you.
Yeah. Some people requested to play you because they just wanted to see your army, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And then, some people, you say we have a goblin army, and the captain's like, well, any of my armies can beat that, so take your pick. And I'm like, okay, then I pick warriors. Because turns out Ricky's army is really good against warriors. Over the last few tournaments, that's something that has been documented.
I think you're 6-0 against warriors.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I don't think I've lost against warriors. I've taken a draw.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, with OFCC, I think it was hard to get into the mindset of it.
Yeah.
But when we did and worked out, what it was supposed to be about, then it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was 2 days, 5 games, all done by these pairings between the captains, and we played against 2 of the Ordo Fanaticus teams.
Yep.
Yeah, because day one was all challenges.
All challenges, yeah. And we played against the Black Sheep guys from Salem, Oregon, right?
Yeah, those are great guys to play with.
Yeah, those are really fun guys to play with. They had a pretty...
Yeah, our day one was we didn't even really get a chance to make any challenges. We were
challenged out.
Yeah, we were challenged out by everyone, mainly because people just wanted to play against Ricky's army.
Yeah. Yep. And then day 2, it was more based on pairings, and we played. I think we played against a Scared Hitless. Was that the name?
Scared Hitless. I don't know. I can't remember where those guys are from.
I don't remember either.
Mm-hmm. I played a Wood Elf list from that team.
I played against their Lizard Man, and then Chop was our last game. And
those guys.
Ironically, the guy that I beat at Victory or Death on table 1 and cheated against, he got his revenge against me.
Who decided he wanted retribution for your cheating? He didn't let you cheat this time?
No, in fact, he got the better of me with the cheating in this one.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he did. I think because we had a lot of confusion about who got to strike when. With there was a combination of things that had always strikes first and things that gave things always strikes last. And anyway, as it ended up, it wouldn't have made a too huge difference one way or the other, I don't think. But he won that. He won that one. So
you're 1-1 now.
Yep. And so the results on the OFCC.
So we finished middle of the pack in the battle points, which I take as an indication that our lists came in at about the right level eventually, apart from Ricky's, which has broken cheaty goblin list. Of course.
4-1, I think you were. Yeah.
And then, so they didn't post an actual breakdown of the results because that's not supposed to be the point of OFCC. You go and have fun and everybody wins.
No, they just posted the rankings.
Yeah, they posted the rankings. So we know that sportsmanship, we came 5th out of how many teams?
22?
22 teams. Yeah. So we're pretty fun guys to play against.
Apparently so. Even me.
Even
me, who didn't win a single favorite opponent vote. Whereas Tom, with his magic hat, won 2.
Oh yeah, I got 2 favorite opponent votes. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure somebody meant to give one to me and accidentally gave it to you instead.
Maybe. I'll take it though.
Fine. I still have them, actually.
So I think they put quite a big emphasis on the sportsmanship.
Yep.
In terms of points, because it is a sporting event.
Yeah.
And
so we came 5th in that.
We came 5th in that, and then we came 1st in the painting category because we had 2 armies painted by Mr. Fisher.
That's right. I brought Ricky Skaven. And not only did I put out the 2,800 points that I was playing with, but I put out like all the rest as well whenever
on the display.
That's what I do with the goblins too.
Just
it's like everything,
everything you've painted. Yeah. So we had those 2 beautiful armies. We had some chaos dwarfs that somebody had thrown paint at. My army, which was not completely painted, but what is painted is pretty decent standard.
And then Ronnie's got a fully painted.
Ronnie's got a fully painted.
Yeah,
pretty good standard ogre army. So that pushed us up to the first place in painting, which overall brought us in at 2nd.
Yep, 2nd overall behind the War Hamsters of Bellingham.
The Bellingham War Hamsters.
Yeah, so I think coming to it for the first time and coming in 2nd is pretty good, but. It's kind of weird for me because I want something either to be competitive or to be not about competition at all.
Yeah, don't even post points. Don't even give prizes to people. We're there for fun. Yeah. Do a random raffle for prizes.
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah.
It does.
It's some weird mismatch of...
The fact that there's going to be rankings and prizes always puts you in a competitive mind frame anyway. And if there was just no rankings at all, I would play in a different way. I mean, I'm never going to play Warhammer and not try to win. I'm just going to put that out there.
Yeah.
That's not me. And if I'm playing against somebody who's not trying to win, I'm probably going to have a bad game.
Yeah.
Because I want it to think and I want it to be tactical. So I'm always going to try and win, but as long as there's rankings, I'm going to try harder.
yeah, for sure. Right.
Exactly.
So, it looks like next year will be a little different. We'll see what happens. We're talking about Swedish comp and stuff like that.
So I enjoyed the event a lot. I would gladly go back. Dimensional Cascade podcast team should go back and represent again.
Yeah.
The only thing that I think I kind of like the idea of having an event that's more about fun and friendly play, but they just need to take the subjectiveness out of the whole list building thing, which seems like they're going to do by introducing the Swedish comp.
Yep. Let's hope.
And then, it could shape up to be a really cool event. Hopefully they'll start getting more and more teams going and it'll keep growing.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So, those are our events we've been to recently. Let's talk about ones that are up and coming. Firstly, in December, we have Sparkle Party Deathmatch 5. Actually, before I go into that, I'll just give a very quick shout out to Kippers, which is next weekend, the weekend before Halloween. So the 26th, I think that is. That's up in Nanaimo in Vancouver Island. So that's Jen Aspen is running that. And that's, by all accounts, apparently a great event every year. This is like the 4th year they've been running Warhammer up there, I think.
Yeah, and I hope I get to make it up to that next year.
Yeah.
This year it just didn't work out because I originally had Sparkle Party for that weekend as well.
Yeah.
And then,
and we've had to move the date because of construction. So let's talk about Sparkle Party 5.
Sparkle Party 5 is December 6th and 7th now. Hosted at, we're back at Card Kingdom, but we're back at a new Card Kingdom over in Bellevue. They are currently still under construction, and that's one of the reasons that is the reason the date changed. They needed to push us back once, and then they were pushing us back again. So we're getting pushed back. They were telling me sometime late November. I decided not to do that because that was going to interfere with Bellingham Slamwich,
Ham Slamwich,
and and Thanksgiving, and I'd rather us not try and compete and with the holiday or the other tournament. So I pushed it to early December, and hopefully people can make it to that. It's going to be 2 days, 2,500 points. We're using the End Times Army composition points bracket, so 50% Lords, 50% Heroes, 25% Core, all that other stuff. The Undead Legion is allowed. The Lore of Undeath is allowed on any caster. And if the Chaos book comes out before Sparkle Party, even if it comes out that day, and somehow you show up in the morning with a list written that morning, I will allow you to play it. So it's, as far as I'm concerned, it's all about playing the new stuff. So
any rule that anybody from GW ever wrote is allowed.
It is the last Masters qualifier of the year, but my tournaments are always going to be about what I would want my tournament to be, not about the Masters. So there's going to be some craziness going on there. So come with a good attitude about that, and you'll have a good time.
Yeah. All right, cool. So December 6th and 7th in Bellevue. I think the new venue is going to be called the Mox Boarding House.
Yeah, it's the Mox Boarding House. There's supposedly, he was telling us room for 56 players, but I'm still going to go for 50.
Okay.
We are, let's see, what else was I going to say? Oh, scenarios are going to be, the deployment is random. You roll a die. There's a high probability for battle line deployment, with a slight probability of either Battle for the Pass or Meeting Engagement deployment zones. And those are just for the deployment zones. And then on top of that, each player has secret mission cards. And we'll be using 20 nil for the battle points, and then scenario cards will earn you up to 5 more battle points. And then there's a high amount of points to be earned on painting, as you would expect from me probably, and then some sports points. We're also doing Dimensional Cascade points for those people who haven't heard about that.
Yeah, I love this.
So it would be pretty funny if somebody qualifies for the US Masters just by having their wizard blow up.
Yeah. So what it is, every time you Dimensionally Cascade, you earn points based on the number of Dimensional Cascades you've already had it in the tournament. So your first Dimensional Cascade is 1 point. Your second one is 2 points. Your third one is 3 points. And it's cumulative. So you...
By the time you've
had 3, you get 6.
You're up 6 points. So by the time you get up to 5 Dimensional Cascades, I think it's like 20 points or something.
That's 15 and 21 for 6. Yeah.
So, if you're throwing 6 dice every chance you get, you might be able to get 2 or 3 the whole tournament. Yeah. I don't really see anybody getting up to 5, but if they do, they're awesome.
Nice. They deserve those points. Yeah. So the wizards will have gone down the hole.
I anticipate Aaron being able to accomplish this with his
2 dice,
with his 2 dice on the first turn of every game with his Vampire
his
Lord.
Slan, his Vampire Lord.
Yeah, either his Slan or his Vampire Lord. Either one.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, like you said, that's the last 2-day for the Masters. The Ham Slamwich is the last 1 day. And those are the last 2 qualifiers. So once we have fought out the Ham Slamwich in Bellingham, which is I think November 21st, 20th, sometime around then, and Sparkle Party 5, the top 8 ranked players automatically qualify to go to the Masters for the Northwest region. And then they also get invited to the King of Cascadia tournament. So King of Cascadia is going to be January 3rd and 4th, and it is split into 2 tracks. So there's the King of Cascadia track, which is the 8 people on the Invitational. And then there's the open Hero of Cascadia track.
The Hero of Cascadia.
Yeah.
The Thane of Cascadia.
Yeah.
Well, so the idea there is that is a final chance for people to compete for the last 2 master spots.
In an all or nothing.
In an all or nothing. Yep. So whoever wins that tournament gets the 9th spot. Automatically. And then the 10th spot goes to whoever is the highest ranked player after those other 9 have been taken out of the picture. So even if you don't do well on at the King of Cascadia tournament, but maybe you are ranked 9th going into it, you may still qualify to go to the Masters. No, it's entirely possible that the top 8 players or whoever else might not be able to make it to that tournament, might not be able to make it to the Masters. That's why we have the ranking systems. We'll just go down the rankings until we get
down the list.
Yeah, until we get the right players.
So this is your bright idea for building good team spirit among the Northwest team, is to throw them all in to play against each other in a competitive environment for a title of King of Cascadia.
Absolutely. And in fact, I'm using all of the same rules as the Masters itself. So
it does.
It'll be Swedish comp. You'll be using the Masters scenarios, which means every deployment is battle line. But you've got 5 scenarios that you choose from at the start of the game in order to earn extra victory points. And uses all the Masters FAQs, et cetera, et cetera.
What did the Masters decide about paint scores or soft scores in general?
Okay, so the way that they've done it is the National Champion Award will go to the best general, effectively. And then there's another award called the Warhammer Paragon, which goes to best overall.
Okay.
So as I said, that pretty much means everyone in the Northwest is competing for the Paragon Award and doesn't really care about the national champion, because that's kind of how we view the world. And I think the Midwest are kind of the same as well. I was talking to Dave Whitek about it.
But the East Coast are all about the battle points.
East Coast is certainly that way. There's a couple of other regions. I mean, as a set of regions, we voted 5-3. To say against paint points being used to decide the national champion. So there's 3 regions who voted for. We were one of the Midwest was another. I can't remember who the third was, but the other 5 just wanted to use battle points. So we'll see how it goes. This is obviously just the second Masters. Next year it could be different. I think next year it'll be in a different location. There's a lot of things are going to change. The Masters has got a charter now, which kind of decides, helps people know how do we choose chairman? How do we, make changes to how the Masters is run, all that sort of stuff. So it's starting to become a little bit more organized.
Awesome.
I was helping out with the FAQs. Like, for example, since the last Masters, we've had the Dwarf book and the Wood Elf book.
Right.
And I think another book. And so I added in all the Wood Elf FAQs and stuff like that.
So the Masters FAQ is something that deserves a little shout out, actually, because it is kind of rulings on a bunch of unclear rules by a group of people who have really thought about and debated this.
Yep.
So, and people were talking about it on the Auto Fanaticus forum, and a guy made a really good point there, which is that, you may not agree with every ruling that was made on the Masters FAQ, but at least it sets some guideline that you can follow in your game. And, if you decide with your opponent to use the Masters FAQ, then there is going to be an answer to pretty much every inconsistency that comes up.
Exactly.
Whether you agree with it or not, whatever, at least it's a rule set you can understand.
Exactly. I mean, I don't agree with how cannons fire, but that doesn't stop me from, having to suffer it every time I'm facing it. It's the same idea. This is just, a few, and to talk through a little bit about how the process went for the FAQ, because I think that's kind of interesting. So the Masters is based on, is using Swedish comp. So we looked at the Swedish FAQ because they have a fairly comprehensive one as well. And so we used that in a bunch of places. We also looked at the ETC FAQ for a lot of the same sort of stuff. And then where neither of them had a ruling or they disagreed with each other, that was when the three of us debated about it. And in general, it was kind of like, I think this, no, I think that, oh, you're right. And then we agreed and it was done. And there was only one or two where we actually, got online and had a good old, talk through. And a couple of them, mostly what we try to do is avoid rewriting the rules.
Sure.
Just take the interpretation and say, this is how we've had to interpret it. But there's a couple of places where like the rules just don't exist or they're contradictory. And we've had to say, well, we'll make a ruling and say like in this way. So, right. Okay. So that's kind of the Masters. The Masters will be February 21st and 22nd or thereabouts that weekend in North Carolina. It's a 6-game GT, 4 games on day 1, 2 games day 2.
Ooh, day 1. That's
day long. 1 starts at like 8:00. Yeah,
that's a test of stamina that day.
It is.
Can you make it into that 4th game before getting sloshed?
Yeah,
is the real question.
Yeah. So there's that. And then that was again voted on, and I voted for 5, but I think everybody wanted a better indication of who is going to be the master. And so there's six games, and then next year we will vote on who is going to host it, and people will be able to bid for it like Olympics style. So that's all still being decided exactly how that's going to work.
That's a cool idea.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll get it over to the west side of the country, and that'll make some, especially people over this half of the country a bit more excited to potentially compete for it. So
the hobby horse.
Working with big kits. So part of this was inspired by all the new big kits that are coming out. Part of it.
And actually, in one of the White Dwarfs recently, they had a whole section about it. But characteristically for the new White Dwarf, didn't really give any actual useful information.
So, here's some pretty pictures.
Right, exactly. Here's pictures of somebody gluing their kit together.
Well, at least they weren't gluing their fingers.
That's true.
Tip number 1.
Yeah, they didn't say how to not glue the fingers, though, which is really what we're going to focus on here.
Okay. Yeah, so let's talk about it. I think there's a couple of aspects, but we'll talk about assembly first. Normally with assembling a unit, you go through and you clip all the pieces for the unit that you're going to assemble. You prep them all, and then you assemble them. Like you make that sort of assembly line to get them all done. And obviously that tactic can't work for a monster. You're only making the one of them.
So actually, in a way, it's kind of simpler. You don't have to use any creativity about like what combinations of arms and poses you're going to do in the unit, and making the unit look good as a whole. With the like most of the big GW kits, it's like you glue it together, and there's a few options.
But it's model by numbers.
Yeah, exactly. You're just going to stick together the correct numbers. So we're following along to this point.
Yeah.
Sticking the numbers together is pretty easy.
Yeah. So, but this is actually a pretty good question. Do you clip all the pieces, or do you just clip whatever pieces you need to make the first sub assembly?
I generally get a little overexcited when I'm building these kits, and like I'll clip a new piece off, and I'll immediately
clipping.
No, the other way around. Once I've got a new piece, I want to glue it to whatever else I've already glued together. So I'm going one piece at a time, clip it off, like take the mold line off, and then glue it onto what
that's what I do too.
Yeah, that's what I do as well.
Because especially the new ones, like some of them, like the Treeman Durthu, when I was working on him, if some of those pieces are so organically shaped and only fit together in one way. Yeah. And if I was to just clip out a whole pile of them and then sit there and try and scrape, I would never figure that out.
So here's the thing, particularly, so I assembled a gyrocopter yesterday / this morning, And for anybody assembling the gyrocopter, do it the way I just said, one piece at a time, because there's like 5 pieces that look essentially exactly the same, but are just very slightly different.
Yep.
And you're going to need to fit those pieces on in the right order. And once you've clipped it off, you're not going to have any clue which one is number 24, 25, 26, whatever. So you need to cut off number 24 and stick it exactly where number 24 is going to be before clipping off any of the other ones.
Yeah, and I think that's actually becoming more and more the way for these new digitally sculpted kits, small or large, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going one piece at a time as much as we can, and trimming, clipping, trimming, and then assembling. So let's say we should take an example of a kit so that we can kind of use it as an example. Let's say we're doing
the Stegodon.
Stegodon. Okay, so we're doing a Stegodon, and you know we have clipped off the head parts, and you know it's got like what 6 or 8 parts to make up the head and neck or something like that.
I think the heads. Yeah, if you count the horns, then about 6 to 8. Yeah.
So we've put the head together one piece at a time, and there's gaps. Do we green stuff it now, or do we wait until we've assembled the whole model before filling in those gaps with green stuff?
Well, there are no gaps on the Stegodon head, but if there were,
generally the plastic kits are incredibly good for gaps. I have to say.
I would say I would green stuff everything after, because you're going to find that a lot of stuff might be hidden anyways, and it really won't show.
So you wait till the end before.
I usually wait to the end to do any green stuffing.
So most models I would generally construct in like 2 or 3 sub-assemblies, depending what the model is. And I would build all those sub-assemblies and then look to see what needs some green stuff on it.
So again, in the case of the Stegodon, when I did mine, it was the Stegodon itself, the beast, the Howdah itself, just like the wooden parts and the metal plate on the front, the great big ring, the stone ring, that was separate, and I painted that off on as its own sub-assembly. And then all of the skinks riding it were painted as their own, like on a little peg.
Let's talk about these sub-assemblies a bit then.
You're jumping way
We're
ahead.
going way ahead to sub-assemblies.
Paint. Whoa.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Okay. So still on the assembly side here.
This is where you get covered in glue.
This is where you get covered in glue. Glue is the question I'm about to ask, actually. How are you gluing them together? Do you use plastic glue? Do you use super glue?
I always use super glue.
You always use super glue?
That's your problem right there.
Really?
Yeah.
That's the problem?
That's the main problem.
I found plastic glue would always just
Which plastic
end up
glue?
even like GW plastic glue.
Oh,
It's
no.
terrible.
Oh, amateur.
Yeah, no.
But it kind of melts the plastic a bit. So if bits go together and
Okay.
Rick is showing me a product here.
Yeah, it's plastic. It's a Plastruct product. They're the people who make all the styrene plastic, and it's called Plastic Weld, and it is just like the GW one. It dissolves the plastic a little bit and actually forms a weld of the plastic. Now, this is another thing why I never have to worry about filling gaps. If there's a little bit of a gap in a model, when I do the dry fit, I can see where that gap is. I brush a little bit more of this on in that spot. I squish the part together.
Yep.
And it fills the gap for you.
Yep.
But it's going to be covered in glue.
No, it's not.
It's going to be glue everywhere.
So this stuff is thinner than water. That's the difference between this stuff and the GW stuff. This has a lower viscosity than water.
Is that a little brush you paint around?
Yeah, and it's got a little brush, so you can brush it on the contact points of the joints, and then you can put it together and then run the brush just along that seam, and it flows in through surface tension or viscosity properties, whatever.
Gravity.
Physics.
Physics.
Does it.
Ricky's beating his microphone here.
Sorry about that. So it flows in there, and that's what keeps the glue off your fingers.
Let's mention this product's name one more time, because it sounds awesome.
Plastruct Plastic Weld. We'll put a link to it on the forum.
Yeah, it's about $5 or $6 a bottle.
Yeah, you can order it from Utrecht. You can order it from Dick Blick. You can go and buy it at just about any hobby shop except a GW one.
Yep.
has this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Galaxy Hobbies, all those have them. They're an orange bottle. They're a glass bottle with an orange label that just says plastic weld with a black lid.
Right. So there's a few things that are really good about this and this particular product, and there may be other products
you use this
that have,
too.
I have used this in the past.
Why do I know about this?
So
because I'm too busy gluing myself.
You're too high on super glue to pay attention.
GW's plastic glue used to be very like this. They used to have a brush applicator, and it used to be a lot thinner. So I mean, this could be like 20 years ago. Anyway, so I think those are the two key properties, though, is that it obviously it melts the plastic, but it's thin. And you can apply it with a brush. Mm-hmm. So there's an amazing amount of control you get because you've got a brush, right? If you think about what you do with a model, most frequently you're brushing paint on it.
Sure.
So you've developed those fine motor skills for actually applying stuff with a brush. You don't get your hands totally covered in paint when you're painting.
And and because the way this stuff activates and does a hold so fast, I can't sets.
Yep.
Like it takes probably a couple hours to truly harden, but it sets so fast that you can literally just touch them together and you're done.
Yep.
So even big models with big heavy parts, touch them together, done. You don't
done
have to
enough to go on to the next.
Straight on to the next one. You don't have to sit there and hold it like you do with super glue. So whenever I watch people assemble plastic models with super glue and they're sitting there for 30 seconds holding every arm on, I'm like, why are you doing that to yourself?
Yeah.
Get this product. Brush it on, done.
Yeah.
If you have a gap, put a big fat drop in there. It'll dissolve enough of the plastic from the surrounding areas to smooth out the gap.
Yep. Great for seams. Like if you've joined like the belly of the beast, your stegodon, you've got left half, right half. You stick them together. You paint along that seam, and like you said, it goes in, it melts it just a little.
Capillary action, that's the term.
Yeah, and the other nice part about it is, it sits. If even while it's still drying, what I'll do is I'll take a file, and just kind of gently rub the file along that seam and smooth that seam out with the file.
You can do that, or if you do end up getting some kind of, like, say your finger touches a part that was still soft and you leave your fingerprint on it, just take this stuff, brush it back over that, softens it back up and smooths it out.
Wow.
So it's great. It changes the way that plastic models are going to function for you. The best part, you don't have models popping apart.
Because they're
welded. The models will break at some other point besides the joint. So so because of that, you got to make sure that you really want it glued.
Right. Yeah.
In that position. So dry fit everything before you go and
sometimes I have to crack the super glue apart when I realize I glued something in the wrong place.
And you can usually, if you didn't put enough of this on there, or you can do small amounts, small dabs. Sometimes I do that where I do a small dab to get the joint just to hold enough. Just to tack it together. Mm-hmm. And then once I'm sure that that's where it needs to be, I can just brush across the whole joint and it'll fill it in and weld it in place.
Yeah. All right, I feel like this product's going to change my life.
Well, and the other thing I've done with this is I have used, like I said, you can use it to melt the plastic on either side of a small gap. I've actually used it to fill big gaps by taking styrene, like a shaving of styrene, or just shaving some off of the sprue, like the actual model frame. Shave off some of those, cram it into the thing, and then brush this on there, and that welds it in there and actually fills those bigger gaps with real plastic instead of green stuff.
And can you really just use a tiny bit?
Yep. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, and anything that breaks, like say the Doom wheel is a good example. The flagpole at the top of that has broken twice in two different places. Jesse broke it once when he borrowed it from me. And then Aiden broke it again, but it broke at a different place, and I never had it. Didn't break on the same break point, and I didn't have to pin it because I used the plastic weld. I just brushed it on, squished the thing back together, and it was stronger than the rest of the plastic.
Okay.
And then it also works great because if the model's already painted, it doesn't haze around it like super glue does. Sometimes it'll give you that white hazing. You can brush this on.
I have white hazing all over my models.
You can brush this on, and as long as it can get into contact with the with the plastic, it'll stick. So sometimes what you might need to do if you're painting sub-assemblies and you've painted over the contact point, just take something and scrape off the paint in that area or score it. Mm-hmm. Just score it again, and that'll let the bond happen.
Okay. So now we know how to glue our models together.
Without getting...
So this can't glue fingers together? Because
nope.
They're not
plastic. Nope. You touch it on your skin and it's like water.
It is not actually a glue. It is a plastic solvent.
Yeah, it's a solvent.
So don't be painting it on your models.
Don't be breathing it a lot.
Unless you want to nurgle them.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right.
Yeah, don't try and use it to strip a model, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so we've worked that out. So now we want to work out how much of the model we're actually gluing together at a time.
Yep.
Before we do any painting at all.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. So we're still talking about plastic kits here. We'll maybe cover a little bit about other materials at the end.
The peculiarities of metal and resin later.
Yeah, plastic is kind of the de facto standard for big kits. So, okay, so sub-assemblies then. Sometimes I think the instructions that you get in the little booklet, they tell you to make the sub-assemblies explicitly.
Mm-hmm. They are now, yeah.
Yeah. Mm. So, it's like, here, make the head, then make the body, and then stick the head to the body.
Mm-hmm. See, for me, there's like a fine line because I usually want to play with my models before I actually get around to painting them. So I have to keep my sub-assemblies in such a way that like the model still looks usable on the table, or I can kind of clip the two sub-assemblies together or whatever.
Right. And that's definitely the tricky part, is figuring out, can I put this piece on and still be able to paint all of it and still reach? So I'm kind of interested, Ricky, to see how you've handled that in the past, because I feel like I can predict the answer, but I want to... Have you run into that problem?
What?
Well, Ricky doesn't play with models before they're painted.
No, but more...
I do.
You do? Yeah. No, more that you've got say there's 6 sub-assemblies for the model. Mm-hmm. Do you just stick them all together, or how do you handle the need to paint a hard to reach area?
For me, the question comes down to, is the part that's being covered very visible? So sometimes sub-assemblies make it easier to paint into up and under stuff. But from any normal viewing angle other than in a light box, you probably won't see up and under those things. So at that point, it becomes a question of how anal are you going to be? Are you going to paint up and under everything? Or are you just going to assemble it and not worry about it? And 99% of the people who critique your model aren't even going to notice.
So you'll really stick most of the model to get pretty much the whole model together.
Like Durthu, yeah. Mm-hmm. He was fully assembled when I painted him. The Stegodon, no.
Okay.
Because
you're right. You
because there's parts that are very visible, but that are hard to reach around everything. Like, you don't want to try and paint the howdah with the skink standing on top of it, because there's a lot of detail in there, a lot of highlighting you want to do, edge highlighting. Edge highlighting when you have to reach down through the legs of a skink is going to drive you crazy. So what you do is you just leave all those parts separate and then paint them and then glue them.
Right. So with me, I'm always looking for, like, what's the maximum amount of gluing together I can do, while I don't mind if I'm going to glue together and it's going to make painting a little bit harder. But if it gets to the point where it's going to make some painting job really difficult, impossible, or just really difficult to do the level of detail I want to do on that part, or if it's going to end up giving the model some shape that's going to be, when I'm actually trying to paint it, it means that paint is going to get scraped off certain parts as well. So that's another thing.
And that's a lot of that's going to come down to individual skill paint, really, and if you know how hold,
ham-fisted you are.
Yeah, exactly. And how your brush control is and stuff like that. So if you know yourself and you don't have that kind of stuff very well, then maybe do more sub-assemblies. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, just make sure that do a dry fit and look at the model and be like, does it really matter Are people really going to see up and under that part or not?
Right.
Yep.
And if the answer is not, then don't kill yourself.
Yeah.
You know.
So to give an example here, my Kadai Destroyer, which is the 40k Forge Fiend kit, Mauler Fiend kit, I guess. I really stuck pretty much the entire kit together, apart from these big like smokestacks that are on his back. And I knew that once those are glued on, it makes it very hard to kind of turn it upside down and get into the underbelly area where I want to paint, without kind of scraping paint off those smokestacks and stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I've been using that model unpainted or semi-painted in a lot of games now, so it had to be to a point where I could actually play with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that actually segues nicely onto the painting part of it. So now, with an infantry model or, anything where you fully assemble before you paint, obviously you pop that onto its base, and then you can easily, manipulate the model without...
Yeah, you have a base to hold on to.
You've got something to hold on to. But with a sub-assembly, it doesn't come with a base, right?
It's just a big chunk of plastic.
And you have to paint 100%
all
of it. Yeah. So
where do you put your greasy
literally,
fingers?
how do you handle it?
Yeah. Literally. Ricky.
Me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm terrible at this. I scrape paint off.
I can tell you what I do, but
okay. The
man.
number one thing to do is wash your hands, you idiots. Every time before I sit down to paint, I wash my hands.
Yeah, me too. But my hands get really sweaty when I'm painting.
Well, you
Stop
might
being so English.
Do I need like a little finger bowl?
Yeah, maybe you need it. Maybe you need to get something.
Lemon in there.
Yeah, exactly, something.
Hot towel.
Yeah, get up and wash your hands throughout the session too.
Come on, man.
I drink a lot of tea when I paint, so I get up to pee probably every hour, and I wash my hands, and that keeps the oils off your hands. Don't touch your face when you're painting. People will sit back and rub their face or their head or whatever. Don't do that, because that goes straight onto your model.
So all of those nerdy, odious habits that we all have, we got to stop those when we're painting.
Yeah, and the thing is those finger oils, face oils, all those strip the paint off the model faster than anything and make other paint not stick.
Right, because you're painting on top of oil rather than on top of paint.
So you need to be very conscious of that. That's going to help quite a bit with that stuff. The other thing to do is do a part of the model when it's a sub-assembly where there's nothing to hold but the actual painted parts. I usually will paint half, varnish it with a matte varnish, satin varnish, gloss varnish, whatever varnish you want to use, then let that cure, then paint the other side and do the same thing, and you varnish between. The varnish protects it, keeps you from scraping it. I've also taken grocery bags, like the plastic grocery bags, and you can hold models with that or parts of models with that, because that plastic is so thin and delicate, stuff doesn't really stick to it. It doesn't damage the paint. Like you've seen how I always bring my models here. It's always packed in those things because they just are really easy on the paint. They don't scrape it off. Whenever I'm building or painting something really big, like say the actual Stegodon body itself, I would build a nest of those and cradle it in that. And then that keeps it from rubbing on the table, keeps it from scraping around, things like that.
That's really good.
And whenever I was helping you do the base coating on your Kadai, right? Did you see how I put the foam down and then put the paper towel down on top of that to pad it?
No, I wasn't paying any attention.
Yeah, so I always build a little nest for whatever, because at the point the model becomes too big to hold consistently or easily, or you start to feel strain in your hands and you need to rest it on something, then you need to build a nest for it.
I painted the Gorgon for the Beastmen, and there's a lot of different sides on that to paint. So I would paint like the fur down the back, and then when painting the front, I would have to rest it on that back fur while painting the front, and then I turn it over and all the paint is scraped off.
Yeah, so build those little nests and do it with, and try not to do it with. If you do use paper towel, make sure it's one that's not really scratchy, because some paper towels can be pretty abrasive. Make sure it's a soft one, but I prefer the plastic bags because they're
so a nest of plastic bags.
Yeah.
So next time I'm at Trader Joe's, just steal a load of plastic bags.
You can't get them in Seattle anymore.
Yeah, you can't
plastic bags.
Yeah.
You can get the little ones that your vegetables go in, the little green bags.
Or if you get takeout, they still give them in takeout. But it doesn't have to be plastic bags. It could be something soft and cushy that isn't going to like shed a lot of fibers. Like if you're using cloth, you might end up getting cloth in your.
Yep.
You don't want those. So just think about what you're going to be doing, and that's the best thing I can say is build the nest and varnish, and then that's going to help quite a bit.
So when you varnish, I know you use an airbrush for a bunch of stuff. Do you airbrush varnish on? Do you hand paint?
I've never had any luck with airbrushing varnishes for some reason. Well, first of all, most varnishes are toxic, so you don't want to atomize those.
Yeah.
A lot of them say straight on the bottle, absolutely do not spray.
Yep.
So of course you shouldn't. And
read the label. Safety first.
And I've noticed when I did on some of them that were supposed to be airbrushable, they still would turn sandpapery even on an airbrush. Like they just weren't. They were setting even before they hit the model, so they set too fast, and I just did not like that effect. I've always just brushed on varnishes.
Okay.
Gives me, because you're not worried about. There are instances where you're going to be, maybe putting a gloss varnish on some eyes or gems, and then around that you might have a matte varnish. But in general, varnishes you don't need to keep clean margins. It's clear,
And
so
you find it goes on easy enough even with a brush.
and it goes on easy and quick with a brush. You want to keep it thin. Don't water down varnishes. If you start watering down varnishes, that's when they turn hazy on you. So I
always just use a spray can of varnishes.
Yeah, that works too. I
always do a gloss coat and then a matte coat.
Yeah,
because the gloss is the strong one.
Yeah, so the gloss has a much stronger surface than the mattes. And so like rattle cans of varnishes, those are...
Yeah, I use the Testors.
Yeah.
Testors gloss coat and Testors dull coat.
Yeah.
In that sequence, and I never have problems with...
Yeah, that's the good way to do it. So now just start applying that as you
sub-assemblies.
Yeah, so now, even now with your Kadai, because I don't think you've worked on it since we did that other stuff, you could varnish it now, and that's going to help.
Can you paint on top of the varnish?
Yeah.
You can paint on top of the varnish?
Paint right on top of the varnishes. My trolls...
In fact, there's whole techniques about doing that.
Yeah, my trolls were done with there's probably 4 layers of varnish on my trolls.
Oh, yeah.
With varnish at one point, and then washes and everything, and more paint, and then varnishes, and then and that's the only reason that they don't get chipped up, because they're those old metal models. There's so much varnish on there holding them together,
right.
So you gotta. So if you're running into those issues where you're scraping off paint, just get some varnish on there. That's gonna help quite a bit.
Yep. For the paint on varnish, what is there a particular type that you would recommend over?
I have probably 4 or 5 different ones that I use. The matte I prefer is the Vallejo. Yep. I do like the little Vallejo matte. Right now I have the Ard Coat from GW for gloss, and I do like it. It's pretty thick, so you can get it on gems or eyes or whatever, teeth. I like painting gloss varnish on mouths. It really brings them to life.
Yep.
So if you, use that thick gooby stuff, it kind of just goobs right on there.
Cool.
And the good thing with varnish is in when you're working with it, you only need it to be on the top surfaces, the ones that you're going to bump and touch anyways.
Yeah.
Unless you're trying to do oil washes or something like that, then you need to have the gloss varnish there. But otherwise.
Okay, so paint half your subassembly, varnish it, then paint the other half, varnish that.
While nesting in plastic bags.
Nesting in plastic to protect
Or
it.
you could get rubber gloves.
Rubber gloves, yep.
Rubber gloves.
Little surgical gloves.
Yeah. Those are, a really box cheap. Of those are like
$5
at Walgreens.
They're really cheap.
Yeah. Get the ones without the talcum powder in there, though. You don't want those.
Yep.
So.
Okay, so that's...
Well, I learned a lot. That was great. Thanks.
So that's assembling, and then that's painting or subassembling and painting. So now you have, theoretically, you have a partially or fully painted set of subassemblies, and you need to assemble them all into the final thing. So I Are there any kind of things that you're likely to run into there? I think the biggest one that I've run into in the past
don't try and stick paint to paint.
Is the
paint to paint doesn't stick well.
So you're going to have to ahead of time identify where is sticking to what and not put any paint.
So I always use
or varnish.
Right. I always use a little bit of masking tape, like from the very beginning when I've decided what my sub-assemblies are. I'll put little bits of masking tape on where they're going to go together.
Yeah.
So right before I prime even, and then paint it, that little pit has always been covered by masking tape. Then I pull it off and I have a pristine little bit of plastic that can be glued.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
I've actually used blue tack, the sticky tack, because then what I'll do is I put the blue tack on and then actually dry stick it together and see if I apply glue to where this blue tack is my model actually going to stick? And so sometimes I'll do that and then take it off and there's the blue tack still there. Yes, it's stuck. There's definitely been contact and just leave the blue tack on there. But I think taking the blue tack off and putting the masking tape on would probably be better because sometimes the blue tack gets in the way. Any other things on making sure it's easy to put it all together at the end?
No, I don't usually worry about painting over a contact point. I just paint over it and then either scrape it off or score it, and that fixes it for me.
Yep.
The scoring is way more effective than
scoring it. So maybe this segues nicely into dealing with those old metal kits.
Yeah,
putting together.
Yeah, so
because I had never heard of this scoring method that Ricky talks about. Well, I know what scoring is, but I never thought to do this to a metal model. My mindset was very much stuck in the whole kind of pinning.
Yeah,
pinning is far too labor intensive, and it doesn't. I see pinned joints break more than scored joints consistently. I don't think pinning actually makes a joint all that much stronger. No, unless you're doing it perfectly by the book.
The reason I would do pinning mostly is because if I didn't pin two big bits of metal together, I would literally have to sit there for an hour while holding them glued together. Yeah. An hour is an exaggeration, but when you have a pin in there, you can basically just put your glue on, put them together, and then it's going to hold itself together while it dries. Yeah. And you're not just sat there.
So the scoring is something the first time in my life I ever encountered it was ceramics. As a kid, I took a lot of ceramics classes, and you would always score two pieces of clay that you're putting together because it increases the surface area and lets the platelets lock together, right? Mm-hmm. And it's the exact same principle even with a metal model. What you want to do is you take the two contact points of whatever you're working with, and I do it with resin models too because it really makes the resin stick together.
And the fine cast accepts the scoring easily enough.
Yeah, fine cast it's such a porous resin anyways.
It glues really
easily. It glues so fine anyways, but I still do it sometimes on big joints even with those. But metal models, I take the two contact points, I dry fit them together, I look to see where I need to score. Anywhere that isn't showing, I go through and I take a hobby knife, just a regular X-Acto or whatever, and I create a very, very fine but pretty deep cross-hatching across the whole thing. And I usually do 1, 2, 3, 4 different angles. All parallel lines, so it comes out being just this really messed up, scratchy looking. Right. And if you touch it with your thumbnail after you do that, it should snag your thumbnail or your fingerprints should snag on it, and you're like, ouch, almost. Right. And that creates tons of surface area, and not only surface area, but 3 dimensions of surface area, so that the glue actually has something to purchase on, and it can create really strong bonds. And so if you do that on both sides of that joint, slap your glue on there, your super glue, it'll also make it so you don't have to hold the joint for as long. You score it, you put it together, you wait about maybe 5 seconds, and it's holding.
It's done.
You do that without the scoring, you're going to be sitting there for 10 minutes because the glue has nothing to purchase on.
And it's kind of counterintuitive, right? Because what you think of in your head is, if I get 2 perfectly flat and aligned pieces and put a little bit of glue in there, it'll all just stick wonderfully well, right? Mm-hmm. And so, you're actually a lot of the time, if you don't know about this, you're trying to get the two pieces to line up as flat and perfectly parallel as you can.
People actually end up doing the opposite, where they'll file it down and try and make it smooth so that there's no gaps.
Yeah.
And that creates, the exact opposite of what you need.
Yeah. So that's one way of working with metal. I find also the pinning is not something that I do to hold things together, but more to provide support in an area where gravity is working against you.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, tails is a common spot where maybe the tail's gone up in the air and or bending at a funny angle, and that pin can give it a little bit of extra strength. And the pinning is it is a pain in the butt, especially. It used to be a lot simpler when the metals were a lead compound because they were softer.
The pin would go straight through there.
Yeah, exactly. But with the
pewter,
even pewter I think is a little softer. But the white metal that GW uses
they don't anymore.
They don't even. Well, you can still buy them. You buy War Dancers, they're still metal.
Yeah, the stone trolls are still that.
Yeah. It's actually pretty hellish on your drill bits. So if you're using a hand drill, you're going to go through drill bits because it's going to probably, after about 3 or 4 pins, you have really ground that, because they're tiny, tiny bits.
Mm-hmm. And it's a hard metal. And you're likely to bend it or break it.
Yeah. And half the time you end up actually just using your broken bit as your pin because you can't get the damn thing out of there because the metal's so darn hard.
Yeah.
So, pinning has kind of become a last resort for me. You can't, the pin holes need to be so small you can't even use like a Dremel or anything like that. So the scoring is definitely one great thing to kind of help deal with most of that sort of stuff. Where I find pinning pretty much essential is helping it stick to the base, because it stops friction from pushing it off. If you've got a hole in the foot and a hole in the base, that's a good spot to do it.
Shear pressure.
Exactly.
So since I've tried this scoring, it works so well that I don't know if pinning is really necessary at all with metal models. The one thing that I still use pinning for, and I think we'll always have to use pinning for, is with conversions. When I'm doing a conversion and trying to attach 2 parts that don't necessarily have the right kind of surface to fit together properly, and I'm going to have to green stuff it anyway. You got to use the pin to get them together in the first place, and then
more what you're doing there is building a skeleton.
Right, you're mashing together bits that don't belong together anyway, so that's different then.
For sure.
But pinning isn't dead entirely. That's what I was trying to say.
No, it's not.
It is to me.
Dead to me.
It's something where you're trying to find alternate ways to avoid it as much as possible.
Yeah, exactly.
As much as possible. Okay, so we have clipped, we have assembled, we've sub-assembled, we've painted, we've fully assembled, we've stuck it to the base. Basing these big kits, right?
You got to do something spectacular.
Here, this is where I'm going with it. Is when do you do the base?
You do it as a sub-assembly.
Yeah,
you do it as a sub-assembly.
I do the base separate.
Yeah, because once you glue a stegodon on, there's no way you're going to dry brush under there.
Yep.
And look at my Kadai Destroyer, for example. I wanted to have rocks and magma channels going all the way through there.
Mm-hmm.
There was no way I was going to get in to paint those channels with the guys sat on there.
Do them separate.
Yeah. So how do you plan out the base then? Because it's very straightforward with an infantry model. He's got 2 flat feet. And you've got a flat base, and there's not much wiggle room. And
the tiny bit of space you've got.
But with something that's on an Arachnorok size base, that's 4 inches by 6 inches. It's 2 square feet. No, 24 square inches, not 2 square feet. Mm-hmm. But it's 24 inches of space to kind of fill up, and maybe your model is going to fill that base, but chances are it's up in the air. Or parts of it are, you've got a lot of space to work on.
Yeah.
So how do you figure out where it's going to be on the base, what you're going to put in there, all that sort of stuff?
Well, I guess that would be stuff you would do when you're planning the whole project.
Yeah.
I mean, normally you know what your base, unless the monster you're building or the big kit you're building is the first part of your army. You should already know what your basing scheme is.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna build the model. I'm gonna build the model first, or build the biggest sub-assembly of the model first, so I know what the model looks like.
Yeah.
Put them on the base, work out where the feet are going to be, and just mark that out with some little blobs of paint or whatever, like where those feet are going to be.
Yeah.
And then just see what space I actually have to work with and what's going to go in there.
But do you do the base? I mean, I get it as a sub-assembly, but do you do it as the last sub-assembly? You obviously don't.
I did my base first because it seemed like a straightforward.
I would probably do the painting part of it last. Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, like on the big stuff, I think that's normally what I do. But I also make sure that it dry fits to the base or whatever scenery I put on there before I start the whole project.
For me, especially with like the Chaos Dwarfs, the bases are such a big part of the army. It's more like with that whole army, I knew what I wanted the bases to look like with the magma and the black rock.
Mm-hmm.
And it's more like I picked the color scheme of the army and whatever to fit in with the base. So exactly the same with the big guy, the Kadai Destroyer. I made the base exactly how I want it to look to match the rest of the army, and then it's just trying to make the model fit in with the base. After that.
So, it strikes me that with some of these models, you won't really have a full idea of exactly where it's going to be on the base until after you've finished assembling it, or close on.
For the most part, the new digital ones, they're almost always given a super flat purchase. A lot of them have a little bit of scenic terrain that holds them up, or something like that, and so you can kind of mess with that. And so many of the new kits fill the base. Yeah. There's, even though there might be some, open space underneath it, but they tend to fill up that whole base. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I think beyond, I would do a dry fit, like Tom says, and mark out where stuff is going to be, like where you might need to actually glue, and then throw down whatever. If you have a super simple basing scheme, then it's probably not that big of a deal.
Yeah, just glue it to the base.
Just glue it straight on, but you can glue the base, the base subassembly to the biggest part, or the feet subassembly, and paint those parts, and then glue whatever else on later. Mm-hmm. But it's going to depend. And like if you have a super complicated basing scheme like Tom's is pretty complicated, then you need to do it completely first, completely separate. Like my Skaven basing, which I really didn't put any thought into. Mm-hmm. No.
Yeah. I just do it around the model once the model's already on
I
there.
think in fact, because I use the Vallejo textured sand, it's so sticky when you put it on, it actually can glue stuff together. For the doom wheel, I know that I didn't actually even glue the doom wheel on. I smeared the base with that stuff and stuck the doom wheel straight into it, and it's done. It's on there. Yep. And then I just had to do some washes and dry brushes around the edges. Mm-hmm. So I know that that stuff is really forgiving. So for those, it's not a no-brainer. Yep. It just kind of depends on the model and your scheme.
Yep. All right. Okay, so we've talked you through assembly, sub-assemblies, painting, varnishing, scoring and pinning, and then getting it all on the base and making it look nice. So is there anything else that we didn't cover that we think you need to cover for assembling or for putting together a big kit?
No,
I think the last thing you just need to consider is chances are, if you're putting together a big kit, it is going to be a centerpiece or something that everybody's going to look at, because it just takes up so much area compared to other things in your army. A big block of infantry will take up, obviously a lot of eye space on a display board or on the battlefield. But, you paint 50 guys in 3 colors neatly, and they'll look great.
Sure.
You can't get away with that with a big kit.
Yeah,
we're all simple creatures. The eye is going to be drawn to to the biggest, most
Voluptuous
impressive looking model on the thing, you know?
The model with the most boobs.
Simple biology.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Boobs.
Yeah. So I think my last kind of piece of advice is around taking your time with the paint job on the big kit. Mm-hmm. And the nice thing is, as first off, big surface area makes it a lot of the time easier to paint.
They put so many details into these big kits.
They do now. It's true.
Kind of a pain, actually. Like the Gorgon, when I came to paint him, was just like the whole mane is full of little skulls and bones and stuff that you have to pick out. It's
true.
Yeah, it's great. Don't get me wrong, but it's.
But the other thing we have going for us is, usually the big monster is kind of it's something you really want to spend time on anyway, because it is something important.
It might even be the reason you picked that whole army. For me, the big kits in the Skaven army were what drove me to collect them. Like I wanted to paint the bell. I wanted to paint the A-bomb.
Yep.
And it just so happened that I also liked the storm vermin, so that those three things sold. But it was the two big kits that got me like, oh yeah, look at that screaming bell.
Yeah.
I want to push that forward. Yeah. So.
And on that shiny, tasty note, I think we're done with the hobby horse.
The Art of War.
Okay, so this episode's Art of War is the uncommon common magic items. Or as Tom was saying, beyond the dispel scroll. So what we're going to do is, rather than go in depth into every single magic item in the book, because there's quite a few, want to go through the each of the broad categories, talk a little bit about the very commonly seen ones on the tournament scene, and then talk about some of our favorites that you don't see quite so often, maybe talk a little bit about why we've taken them or why we've seen them and why we think they're cool. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of just to give people, some, hopefully a little bit of inspiration to try out some of the different magic items. I know I always find it fun whenever I'm playing against somebody and I'm like, I've never seen that before. What does it do? Why did you take it? And then they do something nasty to me. I'm like, that was awesome.
Yep.
I'm going to use that next time.
Yeah.
All right. So let's start with the magic. We'll just go through in the rulebook order, and we'll start with the magic item, magic weapons.
Magic weapons.
Mm-hmm. So this is the biggest section as well. So stuff that you always see.
Stuff we always see.
I think we always see either. And this one, they're kind of the same thing, so I think these two can be paired together, the giant blade or the ogre blade.
The strength swords.
The strength swords,
I think we almost always see those.
Especially on elves who don't want to lose their always strikes first.
Whenever there's a benefit, the benefit of getting extra strength without having to take the penalty of great weapon. Elves obviously benefit from it most.
Yep.
And then 7 with rerolls to hit on 3s, just... every attack.
It's just nasty.
So the 2 strength swords, or the 3 strength swords, I guess.
You do occasionally see the sword of battle as well. Yeah, that's true.
Sword of might.
Sword of might.
Sword of might. Sorry, sword of might. And then the other 2 that I see reasonably frequently are
sword o' striking.
You see the sword of striking, especially on the demon prints.
Exactly.
Yep. You see the fencer's blades.
Yep.
You do.
Reasonably commonly.
That's the kind of the defensive magic weapon.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to give.
Right.
I like giving that to the Grey Seer.
Yeah,
you give it to wizards.
It's an extra buff for wizards who can't get the armor.
Yep.
People will hit you on 5s, mostly.
Yep. And you also see the sword of anti-heroes quite frequently because it is both strength and attack bonus.
It's kind of an anti-Death Star weapon.
Yep, for sure.
You hit a Death Star and you just get a whole load of attacks.
Okay, so those are the ones you see pretty frequently. Any that you guys would pick as ones that you occasionally take or have seen?
I always take, well, not always. I often take a Shrieking Blade. I like that weapon. Like, let's see. So one of the reasons to always to have magic items or magic weapons in the list is because of ethereal, right?
Yep.
A lot of ethereal stuff also causes fear. So the Shrieking Blade negates that. I put it on a little hobgoblin Khan, and he can go off on his own and charge spirit hosts and whatever and cut through them. So I like it.
And it's cheap. It's only 10 points.
Cheap. Yep. Cause fear.
That's a pretty neat one. Ricky?
My favorite one is the Shrieking Blade too. I occasionally take the Relic Sword. I like giving that to somebody who's gonna be suicidal with the big things. But the Shrieking
have a shot.
But the Shrieking Blade, I think, is especially with the goblins or anything that's running outside of a leadership bubble. You just don't want to be taking any kind of leadership test, even fear tests. You know, if my boss or war boss on a flying carpet fails his leadership on a 7, then he's weapon skill 1, and all of a sudden the chaff that he was in combat hoping to destroy, he can't. So so the fear sword always helps with that quite a bit. So but that's my favorite, and it's cheap. It takes care of the ethereal stuff, and I don't know, I've never invested the points into the big weapons, I guess.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, well, when the weapon itself costs more than the hero, that's it
kind of feels a little wrong, doesn't it?
Yeah. So the one that I have occasionally seen and think has its place is the gold sigil sword.
That would be the other one I would give a shout out to.
Yep. Because sometimes, especially with like lizard men or ogres, having something that can go at initiative 10.
If you're already high strength and good weapon skill to begin with, like an ogre hero or a high number of attacks, like an ogre hero or a lizardman hero.
And it creates different initiative steps, which is why I'd really like it. So here's how I would always use it with the Beastmen. In a Mino bus, which is the unit of Minotaurs with a couple of characters in the front rank. So to have 2 characters and a champion in the front rank. Mino champion can take a magic weapon, so I would give him the gold sigil sword. He hits first, then everybody directs their attacks into the champion because they can't kill the 2 characters. Kill the champion, step forward, and I still get maximum attacks from the unit as well.
Oh, you're
so I've
such
a
cheater.
Just gotten 5 extra attacks from having the gold sigil sword, man.
This guy.
We said the section we weren't going to try too much min-max.
No, that's awesome though. No, that's the thing attacks. Is it's one of those super cheap small magic items, 15 points for the gold sigil sword to turn something to get 5 extra attacks.
Right.
Like when you think about it in that context, you're getting 5 extra attacks that you couldn't normally. None of these other swords give you 5 extra attacks. Right. What is it? You have to pay 30 points for 1 or something like that. So, or 40 points for 2. Yeah. So
Sword of Battle you never see because if you run the math, Sword of Striking is always at least as good or better.
Huh. That's interesting. I have never seen any of the plus attacks swords.
Not anymore. I used to see them in 6th and 7th, but for some reason in 8th I've never seen them.
Strength is just so important.
You
get the strength.
Okay, so let's give out a wooden spoon award to the worst of the magic weapons. This is not
wooden spoon.
Not just the
wooden sword award.
Yeah, the wooden sword award. Not just the worst in terms of its effect, but a combination of effect plus points value. My vote goes for the spell thieving sword, where it's only useful against wizards.
Very situational.
And if they don't save a wound, they lose a spell randomly. I'm like, well.
Wizards usually die if you
in close combat.
Yeah, any character that's going to have a 25-point magic weapon is probably going to kill a wizard in combat no matter what.
Yeah.
And so it's just totally useless.
Yeah.
I don't see it ever being taken.
Yeah, and actually, now that I'm thinking about it, this might have a spot against Brolux. Oh, like or against the sisters, or the pink horrors. Those units. I'm like, okay,
It's never making it into an all-comers list.
No, it's not. But it'd be kind of funny. What would happen in that case? I mean, it says a wizard. The whole unit counts as a wizard. Right. So, yeah. So all you have to do is 2 wounds with this, and now your Brolocks can't cast any spells.
Yeah, but they still have a nasty 4-up save. It's not necessarily the spells that are the problem.
Which is what they're really for. Yeah. Anyway, I'd still give that the wooden spoon. It's pretty...
I'm giving my wooden spoon to the Sword of Battle just because.
+1 attack for 20 points.
Yeah. Sword of Strike. Hitting on 2s with 3 attacks is still better than hitting on 3s with 4 attacks.
Yep. So. Ricky?
I would probably go with the Spell Thieving Sword too, because I really feel like it's just that lame.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's the potential for something fluffy like that, but it should be a 5-pointer.
Yep.
Because that would be something that you'd throw on some garbage hero who might try and kill a wizard. But if you build a character to go hunting wizards, you're going to take more attacks or just actually more attacks against wizards because they usually have low toughness. So
Yep. Okay, so that was weapons. Let's go on to armor. Magic armor.
Yeah.
All right, so the stuff you always see. You always see the Armor of Destiny, which gives a heavy armor with a 4-up ward.
And the Silvered Steel.
You see Silvered Steel somewhat. Yep, it gives a 2-up armor save. You see the Charm Shield.
The Dragon Helm.
Every character who's going to be on their own has the Charmed Shield.
Yep. You see the Enchanted Shield quite a bit, and the Dragon Helm.
The Dragon Helm,
and that's about it. You occasionally see the Armor of Fortune, which is the heavy armor that gives the 5-up ward.
And the Glittering Scales gets its exposure.
It does, yeah, because that one paired with the Fencer's Blades is really tasty.
Don't hit me, brah.
Yeah.
Hit me on
that's
sixes.
True. That's true. Okay, so you see about half of them, so that's pretty good.
It is. It's a pretty good section, actually.
But that could also be just because there's only 12.
It is a small section. That's true.
So
I'm having to read some of these other ones because I've never even considered them before. Actually,
so I'm going to give a shout out to the Trickster's Helm as an alternative. Now it's 50 points, and it gives you +1 armor save, and any successful roll to wound made against the wearer of the Trickster's Helm must be re-rolled.
That's actually really good.
Well, it's good, but where I think you can actually get real benefit from it is against poison, because now your automatic poison wound, if you're tough 6 and you've been automatically wounded from poison, it has been FAQ'd as far as I'm aware that if you have to have rolls to wound against you, now I'll double check. If you have to have rolls to wound against you re-rolled, and you've been poisoned, they have to make a roll to wound.
There's no way. I mean, it's the same with the Destroyer, right? You have to re-roll all successful rolls to wound against the Destroyer.
Yeah.
But I never make people re-roll poison because if there's no roll to wound...
Are you sure?
It says... any successful roll to wound. If there's no roll to wound, how are you re-rolling it?
Poison just counts as an auto wound.
Poison means if you roll a 6 to hit, it's an auto wound. So
where did I read that? So I'm gonna.
I don't see the argument for that.
It could be that I read it in a tournament pack rather than in an FAQ. But I thought I read that in an FAQ. In which case, that's kind of meaningless. But at the same time,
I wouldn't take it just to try and avoid poison. I think if you have something that's on a cowboy, this is really good, because your high toughness, you're tough 5, right? You can have a 1-up armor save already, so you're not getting a lot of wounds through. I guess the armor save doesn't really come into that, but you have high weapon skill, and you have a high toughness. You're not going to be taking a lot of wounds to begin with. Now you're forced to re-roll the ones you do get through. That does, and I mean, like when we play against your Kadai, it's so frustrating and so hard. And if you were getting that on, a tanky character, that could really demoralize people. And it's actually something that could really slow them down. So.
Yeah, and because it's a helm, you can pair it with heavy armor and a shield already, so it's going to boost your...
Yeah,
Chaos armor.
It's not like Armor of Destiny, which overwrites Chaos armor. Let's say.
Yeah, I mean the big downside is that it's 50 points.
It's spendy, yeah.
It's very spendy.
I wouldn't use it, but I can kind of see your argument for it
But
having
you take
a role.
you take
I
that
take
and
ward saves over.
Yeah.
Ward saves, man.
I don't know, take that and a big sword and you're going to be messing stuff up.
It's true.
Yeah.
All right, so that was your honorable shout out,
That's
but you're
my
giving it
honorable
based
mention.
on poison.
Well, I thought, and
Ooh,
I've
the fencer's blades.
I've had a quick look to see, and I can't figure out where I'm thinking of that from, and it may be that I'm just getting confused with some older rules.
Right.
But even aside from that, I think if you're high toughness, like you said, this
if
is
you're high toughness,
this is demoralizing.
Not one for elves.
No,
Because
but
wounding on 2-up twice is not very hard.
no, but good for like ogres or
Sure.
or lizard men.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be pretty demoralizing.
Mm-hmm. All right, Ricky has a shout out in this section, right?
Oh yeah, the Shield of Tolos. That's the one right there.
I love that.
Yeah.
The first time I ever thought to use this was back against
me,
against Aiden.
Yeah,
when he was, this was back when you were using the last
Wood Elves. Yeah,
yeah, and so I wanted something that could get in on his unit of Glade Guard and try and shut them down, and
the Banner of Eternal Flame Glade Guard, no less.
Yeah. So he had the Banner of Eternal Flame and on his Glade Guard.
Mm-hmm.
So I took the Shield of Tolos.
Yep.
The Arabian Carpet, and I believe I had the Dragonbane Gem.
Yep.
And so I was able to fly that in. I was able to land out there and absorb a round of shooting because laughed that off.
Laughed that off with a 1-up armor and a 2-up ward.
And a 2-up ward. And then I was able to charge into combat and hold him up because I had the 2-up ward and then also heavy armor and a shield.
Yep.
So
It's a nice one.
it's a pretty good one.
I only got you with a nasty bound item.
What was it? I can't remember.
It was, some bound item from the old book. Yeah.
And it was super
leadership.
smart. Yeah, super smart thing to do because otherwise that unit
was toast.
Yep. It just would have been there the whole game doing nothing.
Yep.
So Tolos makes it into most of your lists now.
Shield of Patui.
Shield of Patui.
When you go to a tournament with an open list, if you have that on something that's running around, and people know that they're going to waste all their shots on them, because even Wood Elf Bow with the armor piercing now is still a 2-up, which is the same as a 1-up. So,
great for a standalone character.
You just give that to something that's going to be, because people aren't going to shoot a cannon necessarily at a lone infantry
character,
but they might shoot, a
unit
unit
of Dark Riders shooting at him or whatever. Yeah.
And once they do, then they just kind of lose those shots, which is good. So.
Yep. Any honorable mentions from you, Tom?
I'll give an honorable mention to the Spell Shield, actually.
Yep.
It's just another way to get magic resistance, which is always nice. I've used it before if I have a unit with a couple of characters in there, and I'm using their talisman allowance already to put personal ward saves on them. Just a way to get magic resistance into the unit and not waste, the banner. Allow me to use another banner rather than the Leechbane Pennant.
Yep, absolutely. I just remembered what I was thinking of for Trickster's Helm. It was not poison at all. It was Killing Blow.
Oh.
So now if someone rolls a 6 on a Killing Blow, they have to re-roll it.
Yeah, agreed. That is a really nice use of it.
Yeah. It's still spendy at 50 points.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, what the hell was I thinking of?
But no, Killing Blow for sure.
Yeah, that's the only way to kind of gain a reasonable amount of immunity to Killing Blow for some characters.
You lost your general to
Killing
Blow.
Killing Blow.
And with all the what is it, Grave Guard or Tomb Guard?
Yeah, the Grave Guard.
Grave Guard that are going to be summoned. Coming up.
Yeah,
getting that helm in there might
be
good.
This would give some protection against death magic as well, right? You have the death magic spell that you do 2d6 minus strength worth of hits, and then they wound on a 4-up, right? What spell is that? The Fate of
Buna.
Or
that's cause a wound or a roll of a 2+, with no armor saves.
Right.
So if they did that.
Or the Caress of Lanif. That does a wound
well.
on a 4-up. So now people are re-rolling that.
Re-rolling
right?
so any successful roll to wound, So that is giving you some protection for sure.
Protection against death magic.
Nice.
That's all right.
So, there's uses when you start looking for it. I would say you would probably see this more if it was 30 points.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think the wooden spoon goes to probably the only thing that didn't get mentioned, which is the Helm of Discord.
I don't even know what it does, but it's terrible.
You basically you make a leadership test, and if you fail, you can't attack and you're hit automatically. So it's not terrible, but it's situational and it's 30
things
points.
Don't really fail many leadership tests.
Not too often.
Days.
No. With very few exceptions, everything's got leadership 9 rerollable.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, thanks for reminding me.
He's got leadership 9 rerollable when he's got Starsnick and the Banner of Standard of Discipline.
Yeah.
All right, onwards
into talismans. Yep. Okay, so stuff you see forever. Talisman of Preservation you see all the time. That's the 4-up
every
ward.
general.
Dawnstone, reroll failed armor saves. Very popular on the 1-ups.
Dragonbane Gem.
The Dragonbane Gem, yep. 2-up against Flaming. You do see the Talisman of Endurance occasionally to give the 5-up ward to a secondary spellcaster, for example.
You see the Obsidian Lodestone sometimes as well.
You'll see the Lodestone and the Amulet that both give magic resistance.
You see that a lot on units that have a lot of characters in, and enough characters that one can sit in the next rank back, so it doesn't really need personal protection.
Yep.
And that buffs up the whole unit against magic.
Yep, and you'll also see it in units where the unit has a ward save to begin with, and then there's buffs the whole unit for... to give them the 2-up against magic.
Right.
Okay, so those are the ones you see pretty often. Honorable mentions, anybody want to call one out?
I'll throw one out for the Luckstone. It's so cheap and it gives you 1 reroll to your armor save. So.
Yep, so that 1 critical armor save that you might need to make.
Yeah, but you're able to have pretty good armor saves. So for you, that's
armor saves,
that's the thing with anything rerolling armor saves. You're kind of only giving it to something with a 1-up or a 2-up. Yep. Ricky, any honorable mentions for you?
No. I mean, really, the only one that I like to take is the Dragonbane Gem because it's fun.
Yep.
For sure. Other, I take the Talisman of Preservation on. If I can't take Skarsnik, then I do the Armor, Silvered Steel, and the Talisman of Preservation, and that guy is actually more survivable than Skarsnik.
Yep.
for like half the price. So,
yep.
So, but
Okay.
Nothing I would really say is that I think is awesome.
Yeah,
I think that they're all kind of boring, to be honest with you.
They are a little bit.
They are boring, yeah.
The one that I will give a shout out to is the Opal Amulet. It's a 4-up ward, but only against the first wound. I actually kind of like this paired with the Charmed Shield. So you get a 2-up against your first hit, and then a 4-up against your first wound. So
for 20 points.
For 20 points.
Yeah.
And so that still leaves you 30 points in a hero slot to protect like your BSB or a hero level wizard or whatever.
Yeah, if that's somebody who's not in a unit, they're out running around. That's a pretty good way to go.
Yeah, or even against death magic again, right? It can be nice to give you a 4-up ward against that one spell.
Cool.
Okay.
Wooden spoon?
Wooden
Pigeon
spoon.
plucker.
Pigeon plucker. It's only 5 points, though. It's not. You can't call it bad value. Even if it did nothing, it's not that bad value.
It is. It's just so situational that you will very rarely ever get to use it.
It used to be that if you were going to have a mage or something hanging out in the backfield, then flyers would be the thing you're worried about. But now the game is so full of fast cav that you're worried about that as well.
Yeah, and you hardly ever see models on their own that aren't already with a 5-up board. I just think it's so situational that you're seldom going to get to use it, and even when you are going to use it, you probably haven't so much that you forget to use it.
Yeah.
You're like, oh wait, that thing had fly, didn't it? Damn it, I was supposed to have a 5-up against that. Oh well, he's dead anyways,
Yeah. I would like to see more stuff like this talisman gives the bearer and his unit protection from fear, right? or
Strider or weird things like that.
Well, I mean, these are supposed to be protective things, so it'd be cool if they were, some of them applied to the unit or removed some other effect, like I don't know, but I think there would be cool things that they could
100.1 to auto pass any characteristic test for the unit.
Wow.
I would
interesting.
I'm just gonna real quick give my wooden spoon joint to Talisman of Protection and Seed of Rebirth, because I just think 6-up saves are just
they're insulting, aren't they?
They're just pointless.
Don't remind me.
They're just insulting.
It's
my poor
save.
forest spirits.
Yeah.
Yep, it is. Yeah, here, have this thing that's the same as a shield.
Right.
All right, let's move on to Magic Standards before I get depressed. So, stuff that you always see. The
Razor Standard.
Razor Standard is pretty common.
Very common.
Banner of Swiftness is pretty common.
I like
Standard of Discipline.
Leechbone Pennant.
Common. And Standard of Discipline. And the Flame Banner.
Yeah, so... Yeah.
Probably
again,
4 or 5 that are used pretty commonly.
Yeah.
4 or 5. The most expensive ones are not seen that often.
No. So
I would say I don't think I've ever seen the Lichbone Pennant.
The Leechbone Pennant?
Yeah,
I think
it's just cheap magic resistance.
Yeah, maybe
I just very often.
Maybe it just people don't remember
on bunkers,
to use it.
Little bunker units.
Bunker units.
It makes sense to take, yeah, but I think people.
Just gives your
I always see
character 3-up
I almost
save
always
against
see the Eternal Flame Banner.
Yeah.
And
everyone wants to have their one flamey unit.
I think I see that more than any other banner. Standard of Discipline.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
Either Standard of Discipline or Flame.
Yeah. And then after that, you get Swiftness, Razor Standard, and then everything else is kind of whatever.
Yeah. So, honorable mentions, Tom?
Gleaming Pennant. I love the Gleaming Pennant.
Yep.
I give it to whatever unit is going to operate. I need to operate outside the BSB bubble.
Yep.
Just gives smart. You one safe.
Yep.
One bit of safety, yeah.
Yep, for sure.
For 5 points.
Great on Frenzy unit as well, if you need to give that a bit of protection. Ricky, any shout-outs for you?
Well, this one's tough because I don't have a lot of experience with these. I'm allowed 1 standard in my goblins. And
which is always discipline.
It's always a standard of discipline.
It's got to always be the standard of discipline, otherwise I don't have a chance.
Yeah.
With the Skaven, I would take... the Skaven have the best banner in the game, which is
the Storm Banner.
The Storm Banner, and then I would take
the
Eternal
Storm Banner.
And I would always put the Storm Banner on the block of Storm Vermin, and put the Eternal Flame on the BSB, because then if I knew that the Storm Vermin were going to have to fight something that had a high save against flaming,
he could come out,
or I could also deploy him into a unit that needed to fight something with regen.
Yep.
So after I saw how things were deployed, I could place him where I needed that.
Yep. That's fine.
But other than that, like sometimes I encounter the other ones, but I don't have much to say about them.
So the only one that I will give a shout out to is the War Banner. So it's basically a banner that gives +2 instead of +1. So it's a little spendy. I think there are some units that benefit from it more than others. I think like an elite unit of undead benefits from it quite well. So, obviously combat or demons. I mean, you can't give it to demons, but something that is unstable, that needs combat res in order to not die. But doesn't have a whole lot of static combat res already due to, it's only got 1 rank, for example.
I find it just over, like in 7th edition Warhammer or whatever, where combats were won and lost on a couple of points of combat res. I used to love this item. But for 35 points in 8th edition, where combats swing by so much, like so many wounds are done in combat.
It's true.
These days, I find it not really worth it anymore.
See, I would have thought that too. But what I found with playing the Skaven is, I'm taking a ton of wounds, but I'm dishing out a ton of wounds too. And everything is coming down to a couple of points at the end, where literally it's like we've had to count out, okay, who's got the banner? Who's got a BSB? It's not obvious, now you just take the leadership test and you're steadfast.
Right.
We've literally, like over the last 10 games that I've played in the tournaments, there's been multiple rounds where it's been decided by 3 or less. And I'm like, okay, at that point...
At that point, it's sounding pretty good.
It's sounding pretty good.
I just think 25 points or even 20 points.
Well, it used to be 25 points in some of the older books.
Yeah, in the Beastman book, it's still 25 points, I think, yeah.
Yeah, so, okay, wooden spoon then.
Scarecrow.
Again, because you're like...
No, I don't know, maybe
the Wailing Banner.
Maybe the Wailing Banner.
Wailing Banner's terrible.
Yeah.
Cause terror for 50
Or
points.
Rampager Banner. It's good, but you can pretty much usually only put it on a BSB.
You can only put it on a BSB.
And there's either a better banner to take for the BSB or you want to protect him instead. So, so screw it.
Yeah,
not worth it.
There are those banners you never see.
Yeah,
those top two, they're just way too expensive. Like Terror is just so not even worth the points anymore.
Yeah, it's not.
That it's just silly.
Anyways. Okay, all right. Arcane items. So this is the second largest set.
Yeah, it's a big one.
So let's talk about what you always see.
Dispel scroll.
Dispel scroll. You see the power scroll reasonably frequently.
Yeah.
You see the earthing rod.
Earthing rod.
Trickster shard.
No, you don't see the trickster shard.
Other trickster shard.
You see the other trickster shard,
not the trickster shard. And you see the
other one.
The channeling staff.
You see the channeling staff very frequently
on the slan.
Yeah,
it's a pretty common build. And there's a couple of other like non-lizard men that also get multi-channel dice.
I've been seeing it a lot on the warriors lately too.
Warriors, right? The Zinch guys get extra rolls on their channels.
Yeah, so I've been seeing it a lot there too, and it's so cheap, 15 points. I mean,
Zinch, you reroll ones, right? So then you
reroll ones, and I think you can take like a familiar or something to give you another channel dice or something like that.
I take it sometimes even with no bonus, even though I don't have any of those other bonuses. It's just, if you think about it, in an average game, it adds 2 dice at some points where you might need them a lot.
Yeah, and you do occasionally, exactly. I agree.
2 dice at some point in the game. Yeah.
Okay, so shout outs.
Power Stone. I love the Power Stone. I love the Power Stone. So I love being able to just play with my opponents a little bit and save 1 dice, and they think, I don't need to save any dice to dispel whatever he's going to do with that 1 dice. And I'm like, 3 dice.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, I think you do see the Power Stone reasonably
frequently. You see it reasonably frequently, but it's not... I like it a lot.
Okay, Ricky, any...
what is my favorite?
Any shout outs?
No.
No.
It's just one of those. It's another one where there's so many of them. I've never the hex scroll. I think is awesome.
Yeah. Especially
it's awfully wordy on how you use it, but it's awesome. But then you get into things like the scroll of shielding. That's pretty good for 15 points, I think, because you could just, instead of wasting your dispel scroll, throw that out and have a 4-up ward against it. So I mean, there's stuff that's good in here, but I can't say anything. I mean, other than the dispel scroll that I would take consistently. Yeah,
that's fair. Yeah, I like the hex scroll, especially because level 2 wizards are becoming more and more popular.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll also give a shout out to the Book of Asher at 70 points. I think when you take it just specifically for Wood Elves, you get that +1 to cast. You get a +1 to cast when you're in a forest. So now you've got a level 6 wizard. It's a bit like having an extra dice in every casting attempt.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
So
just with the way some spells are costed, just adding that +1, it means stuff comes down to 1 dice instead of
or 2 instead of 3.
Yeah, I remember the game I played against you. After you had drawn out all of my dispel, I used my dispel dice to dispel what I thought was important. Yeah. And then after that, you just have 4 more spells coming through on 1 dice.
And it means that you can still cast almost all of the signature spells can be cast with 1 dice, getting 2/3 probability of getting it off.
A big whack.
70 points is a big. I think actually it's reasonably costed.
It is reasonably costed. Yeah. It's not necessarily what I would choose, but
exactly. It's situational and But okay, so that's arcane items.
Wooden spoon.
Wooden spoon, wooden spoon for me.
Just take a pick. There's millions of wooden spoons.
I actually think the worst one is the Wand of Jet. It's 35 points. After you've cast, it's one use only. After you've cast, you can roll another d6 and add it on. And I'm like, okay.
It's not terrible.
It's not terrible, but the Power Stone is 2 dice before you cast. Yeah, but
you have to choose before. This lets you be a little more conservative with your dice and then, throw a minimal number, see that you missed your spell, throw another one.
Enchanted items. Okay, so...
These are the fun ones.
These are the fun ones. And this is kind of the catch-all for everything. Okay, so what do you see a lot of? You see the Ruby Ring of Ruin.
Ruby Ring.
You see the Crown of Command.
Potions of Strength.
You see the
Potion of Strength, yeah.
Other Trickster's Shard.
Other Trickster's Shard. That's where it's at.
And I think you see the Arabian Carpet pretty frequently, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so, Ricky, I'm going to let you have the first shout-out.
Oh, I'm spoiled for options here. I love them all. I finally have used the Wizarding Hat.
I love the Wizarding Hat.
And I loved it. It was fun. It was really fun. I loved I loved the start of my turn being 4 rolls on animosity, 2 rolls of stupidity. Yeah. And one of those was almost always a unit that was that had to roll for animosity. I also had to roll for stupidity. So I'm like just rolling dice. Like, are they going to move at all? It's like the craziness of it. I can also say that it
does something else other than just give you stupidity. Though.
Yeah, it turns you into a level 2 wizard. And the cool thing about it is, for me, I can take a really cheap Night Goblin Warlord who has toughness 4, 3 wounds, can have heavy armor and a shield and a hand weapon, and be in a unit. So he's actually better than almost every other wizard in the game, and he's a level 2 wizard.
Yeah.
He's stupid.
Yep.
Which I thought at first meant that the whole unit was immune to psych, but it's the majority has to be. But he's just really good at that point for a level 2. Now I had to dig out an 8-sided die to pick out my lore. But that is so much fun. And I'm using spells that I have never seen before. I've never tried before. And
that's right, because you've got dwarfs, Skaven, and Night Goblin. Yeah. So it's like you don't get a lot of choice in terms of spells.
I haven't used these since I played Lizardmen, which was years ago. I'm using spells that just I see thrown at me, and I'm just like having so much fun trying. Like in a game against Jesse, I happened to get and he was playing Nagash. We were playing Nagash for the first time. I happened to get Lore of Shadow. Yay. Okay, that's cool, right?
Yep.
Then I roll for the spells, and I get Pit of Shades and Miasma. Yay. My level 4 also got Itchy Nuisance. Yay. So I get to the magic phase. I get a big magic phase. I managed to bring Nagash's initiative down to 2. And I managed to cast Pit of Shades.
Yep. And Itchy Nuisance.
Jesse manages to save it with a 2.
Gross.
It was almost.
It was the closest, but just that whole sequence of events was like so epic and so fun that I think that is just probably my favorite.
Nagash sat by a goblin.
I love the flying carpet on a goblin. Just stupid cheap, fly him around. He always dies. He always is fun though.
Yep.
And I think I like seeing the Arabian carpet on ogres. That's just scary, like
Minotaurs.
Yeah. That's scary business right there.
Yeah. Yep.
The Folding Fortress, I'm actually thinking next year one of Sparkle parties is everybody's going to bring a Folding Fortress for free.
Oh,
God.
Dude.
Because
every game will be the 2 towers.
And the reason I'm doing it is because I see so many tournament
banning.
That ban it, and I'm like,
different.
That's so stupid. It doesn't, if people pay 100 points, it's 100 points. That means you have to take a lord to take it
with no magic
with
items,
nothing else on them.
Yep.
Then you are giving up quite a bit, right?
Yeah, but what happens is people play the fortress and they take like a an 80-man unit and then just put all that
of shooting.
Yeah.
And they make their own fortress model that has 20 floors, so you can have all of those guys shoot.
Yeah.
The reason it's banned is because some people are douchebags.
Yeah. And there's ways around that. If you make it free, you just say, a 3-story tower, and it can only have a certain footprint. And you can only put, maybe we say only a certain number of models can start.
That's comp, man.
But,
that's comp.
Yeah, but you're getting a free tower out of it, so put that in the suck it bucket.
Okay. Tom, shout outs for you just to finish this.
Potion of Speed.
Potion of Speed,
especially on a Death Wizard.
Because you have dwarfs, is that why?
Well, yeah. If I'm gonna cast a Purple Sun from a dwarf, and he might end up casting it on himself.
So first you guzzle your potion.
I want to get my initiative up to 5 and then cast it. Otherwise, I'm losing a 400.
Yeah, but you got to remember to drink it at the start of the turn, right?
Yeah, I can handle that.
Okay,
I can handle remembering to drink my potion.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
Yep. I will give my shout out to the Potion of Foolhardiness. I think it's great. It took me a long time to remember to use it every turn I wanted to charge, but getting that extra attack and being able to charge in against that thing with fear or caused fear or terror.
And not have to roll, that's
very
good.
Nifty for 5 points. I like it a lot. Okay, wooden spoon time.
Feather photo.
Exactly. It's another one
of
these...
the stuff that's situational against flyers. We're just pretty down on it.
Yeah,
I hate paying points for situational
it's pretty funny
stuff.
against demon.
And here's the thing, the great thing when you look at what the points you spend for terror here, is actually
half
fairly reasonable.
Yeah.
The whole unit still causes terror. Sure, we can't use his leadership, but you could just put that on a cheap character and throw it in there, right?
Yeah.
And still,
the unit would still have to take a terror test against something else that causes terror.
That's true. Just
it would have to take a fear test. I guess the character wouldn't be affected by it.
Yeah, because it's the majority of the models have to cause it.
Yeah, but still, it's pretty.
It's pretty good.
It's good to cause fear and other things. Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm just.
It's not as useless as the Feather Photort.
Yeah, it's another one of those things that's so situational and not fluffy enough to actually be worth taking.
Mm-hmm. Right.
If it was super situational like that and 5 points.
What the hell is a torque anyway?
It's like a headband.
No, neckband.
Is it a neck?
It goes around the neck.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Yep, it's a Celtic thing.
It's like one of those little
feathers
chokers.
Of things that you killed.
It's metal usually.
Right, but at the feather photort, you fill
photort?
it full of feathers, and then flying stuff is like, whoa,
maybe.
Don't take my feathers, brah.
That might
I'm
be
scared. I'm scared. You've killed a feathered thing before, but what happens if they have bat wings, brah? Then I'm not scared anymore, am I?
What if they just float? What if they're on an Arabian carpet? Bro?
What? Yeah.
You need to dangle some bits of carpet.
Get a little
too?
carpet tassel, and you gotta make that torque like crazy.
I think,
all right. Somebody needs to model that up.
We need to get to bed.
I think we're jumping the torque now.
Oversized meatball.
Okay, so that wraps up our Art of War section. I think we won't be having a campaign corner this episode, but we will include one in the next episode. I think actually the entire next episode technically is campaign corner if we're talking about end times.
Doing end times.
And all that remains is for me to thank everybody for listening and sign off for the night.
Good night.
Night.